Hello, everybody, and welcome to Unholy Mole and Bad-Tempered Badger's Underground Apostate Hour. It's probably going to
Hello.
be more than an hour. It's just we thought the name was cool. So,
Ooh.
oh, do I have that fucking muted? Uh-oh.
No, I didn't. There we go. We're sorted now.
Okay, good deal. I thought it was me at first. But anyway,
No.
what we're gonna talk about PC culture and obviously probably talk about some atheism and maybe look at a few Answers of Genesis articles. And I found another really cool website called Debunking Disbelief. And we're going to look at a few articles on there. But first, we're going to talk about PC culture. And my first thing I'd like to say is being politically correct good for anything? What are some of the pros and cons of PC culture? What do you think, Badger?
Well, PC culture. We should probably define what we're talking about.
Fair enough.
There's the whole debate about whether it's just being nice to people or whether it's specific rules and restrictions put on speech, or whether it's there's certain things you can't or shouldn't say or anything like that. I think for the purposes of discussing its negative aspects, it's necessary to acknowledge that it includes things like rules and regulations placed on speech and actions that aren't always a good thing.
Right. I would say let's define political correctness as what is or I guess like I don't really want to call it that either though. I mean, like, what is socially appropriate? That's subjective to. I mean, but what are the base rules? I guess you could say sometimes being politically correct has a place, but other times it doesn't. I mean, you can't be politically correct about everything, but you should use tact when speaking, I believe. But you should never be silenced, though. I mean, but say what you're going to say tactfully. You know,
tact is a very underrated thing in modern conversations.
Right, you're right. It is pretty much. Oh, okay. So what are some? Let's go with pros of like what I said. Like, what is social like today's what is? Oh, first of all, let's say what does society deem as politically correct today, right now? What do you think the definition is?
Well, let's have a little look. There's two. If I'm trying to figure out what a word means that I don't know, or one that I want to have a sort of a generally accepted definition on, I generally I start off with the Oxford English Dictionary, and then I go to Urban Dictionary.
All right, fair enough.
So, Oxford English says political correctness, the principle of avoiding language and behavior that may offend particular groups of people. And then usage, for reasons of political correctness, we have been asked to withdraw our advertisement from the national press. And then the first one in Urban Dictionary is a way that we speak in America so we don't offend whining pussies.
That's pretty much what it is. Okay, I mean that's pretty much what I said. What is socially acceptable? I mean, oh, Duke is here. Well, I'll send you a link here in a little bit, Dukey.
Yeah, we're gonna start the conversation off, and then we'll see if anyone else wants to join.
Yeah. All right. So that's what I said pretty much is what we're going with political correctness is. What is socially acceptable to say in America or in the world today? Let's say in the Western world. We don't live in the Eastern world, so I don't really have no idea what's politically correct there. Nor do I think it's even close to the same as what would be politically correct here. Now, do you think there are any
different culture?
Do you think there are any good points for political correctness?
Oh, absolutely. I think, as you mentioned, I think tact is a good thing, and I personally think it's very underrated and underused. I think a lot of particularly on Twitter and on the other places where the discussions between theists and atheists often happen, I think a lot of it devolves into just shouting matches quite quickly because nobody's got any tact.
Right, exactly.
So it's perfectly possible to have a conversation about a difficult topic without everybody ending up shouting at each other.
Right. I think that people don't know the difference between constructive criticism and just plain old. I mean, and just plain old being a dick to someone. Like you can criticize someone without. Well, even if it does hurt their feelings, you can do it without being a dick. You know
Yeah,
what I mean. There's nothing wrong with criticizing a person's because of their ideas. There shouldn't be anything wrong with that ever. That should never be fucking taboo in my eyes. But
oh yeah,
I mean,
I'm all for constructive criticism.
right. And I think that a lot of people in today's society don't like to take responsibility for their own actions. So they, do you think, okay, let's put it, do you think that people truly are disgusted by the, like, okay, let's just take the far left as an example,
Mm-hmm.
or the far right. They're both pretty much the same thing now, just different sides of the same coin.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think that they are really outraged by all these things, or do you think it's just something for them to feel included in and to be a part of? Do you think it's just like a fate? I mean, they're young, they're in their early 20s. I'm not trying to talk shit on,
Mm-hmm.
but when I was that age, I was very impressionable and I just wanted to fit in. So, I went through my fucking, like, I was in my early 20s in the late 90s, early 2000s. So I was like, I was a metalhead. I had the chain
Oh,
wallet and the fucking
yeah.
long hair and Jinko jeans. And I mean,
You-
like, would I wear that today? Fuck no. I mean, I was fucking. I'm not the same person I was when I was in my early 20s. So what I'm getting at is, do you think that they are? Do you think that do you think they believe the shit they're spewing? I guess I should say.
Well, I think some do and some don't. I'm gonna I don't know where you, I know we've had a few conversations, but I don't think we've really been over our sort of political leanings in detail. I personally, I tend to fall more on the left than on the right politically, but I try to look at each individual issue on its own individual and distinct merits. I try not to, I try not to play politics as a team sport. I try to actually think about each issue as it comes.
Right.
But I do, if you look at, I think, if you were to look at all the various positions I hold on things, I tend to be more left than right.
Right. Well,
Um,
I have two for the most part. I mean, go ahead and finish though. I'll tell you in a second.
oh yes, but I think as well as that, a lot of people don't like to really think about difficult issues, so they will look at it as a kind of team sport and just go, right, I'm going to pick whichever side of this my team says is the best one. And I think as to whether they believe it or not, I think a lot of them haven't really thought about it, and they're just following along with the team, as it were. For example, an issue that I'm going to pass back to you actually. What would you say is a common issue that causes a lot of angry discussion?
Oh, okay. Let's go with immigration.
Oh, there we go.
Immigration is
I think.
definitely a hot topic.
Oh yes, you could say it's in the news a little. Well, I think with that, it's very divided along party lines by a lot of people who don't want to actually think about it and just want it to be solved.
Right.
So
Yeah.
people who normally, sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say I think they're trying to simplify immigration way too much. It's a very, very complex issue, especially in America where like Mexicans can not freely move, but it's not hard for them to get here. I mean, it's hard, but I mean, but they get here. Let's just put it that way. And say they've been here for 25 years, right? And they have jobs, and their children have fucking grew up in America. They're college students, and then, you know, something were to happen and they want to deport them. Like, come on, really, dude? I mean, that's a little bit of a sticky situation. Can you really call them? I mean, especially the children, they're born on American soil, so technically, wouldn't that make them an American citizen?
Well, I don't know how things are legally in terms of all the minutiae and the details of it. I'd say, you know, if they came across illegally in the first place, there's something, you know, it's a little bit awkward. That's an awkward situation from every angle you look at it as. But definitely the children at that point, however the parents got there, they were born there.
Right, but I mean, like, if they've been here for 25 years, I mean, I'm like, that's what I'm saying. I'm just trying to like add a complexity to it to show you. I mean, it's just not that simple. I mean, like, if the parents
allowances need to be made,
they've never committed a crime, and you know that, you know, if they get caught for something petty like drunk driving, you know, and they want to deport them over that. I mean, they need to take into account, okay, well, how long have they been here? Can't they like figure out a way to grandfather them into the country? You know, they
might have done a lot of good things for the country while they've been there.
Right, exactly. I mean, there's got to be a way that they can. I mean, there's got to be special allowances made. Like, I think they should look at stuff on a case by case basis. I know that would be a lot of work, but people are worth the time and the effort. I mean, they're people. No matter what I mean, that should be first and foremost in our fucking heads. They're people. That's the main issue. Is they're people. We can't treat them like, you know, subhumans.
I think treating people as numbers and statistics is a lot of what's wrong with modern politics.
Yeah, and I think technology has a big part to blame in that, to be honest with you. Because I mean, like, and that's another thing I think that people get so outraged so easily now is that, like, 30 years ago, like, I mean, by the time, like, say a riot had, like, there would be no Antifa and shit like that. It just wouldn't happen because people couldn't organize like they can now. They're so easily organizable that, I mean, I don't think that the world was a totally different place 30 years ago. It just was.
Oh yeah, it's a completely different situation now, and you know, my experience with technology has vastly changed over the last few decades.
Right. Yeah, I'm
conservative, as it were, in my use of technology. If you compare me to a lot of people of my sort of generation.
Right.
Well,
oh, you mean like
I don't have
Snapchat and all that crap?
I don't have a mobile internet service. If I'm out of the house, I'm not on the internet.
Oh, neither do I. My phone dies too quick when I use the internet on my phone, so I'm like, fuck it. I don't need the internet that much when I'm away from my house. As long as I can call and text people, that's enough, you know. But I am on the internet all the time, though. I'm not gonna lie, I am on the internet all the time.
Oh yeah.
But that's my television, you know. I watch like Netflix and YouTube movies instead of watching television. So I mean,
yeah. Well, the point there is, for me, it's important that when I'm not, you know, if I'm outside, I'm out to do something that's not what I do when I'm inside.
Right, exactly. That's I don't understand children today. Like when I was like, say like 10, 12 years old, I was never home, dude. Like as soon as I got up in the morning, I would fucking run out the door and I would be gone until fucking it was nighttime. Then I'd come home, you know? Like I don't understand how kids are inside all the time. I was always outside, like riding my bike. I was usually up to no good, but I was always outside. I mean up to no good, like in a kid's way, like, you know, like
I know it.
Throwing rocks and smoking cigarettes, shit like that, you know. I mean, I wasn't like robbing old ladies or nothing.
Shooting some b-ball up outside of the school.
So, do you think there is? Yeah. I'm from a little dinky ass town in the middle of a cornfield. So, but do you think there is a place or do you think that people just need to relearn the definition of political correctness? Do you think people are taking it too far?
Oh, absolutely, I do. Yes, and I have some examples of what I mean by taking it too far. for a start, it's a very divisive thing. It's very difficult. Were you okay there?
Yeah, I'm fine. Sorry,
No,
I was moving my I have like a port, you know, them like TV trays you can fold out.
Oh
I got my laptop on top of one of them, and I was moving it. So sorry about
I thought Chewbacca would come in and eat
that.
you. So yeah, divisiveness. Open discussion is vital. You know, it's vital to progress and to making sure that good things happen and bad things don't happen. And for example, pointing out bad ideas, it's impossible for good people with good ideas to counter bad ideas if those good people are at each other's throats about something trivial.
Right. Exactly. And that's exactly what's going on right now is people are, instead of listening to the opposition's ideas, they just stick their fingers in their ears and go, la, 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 I can't hear you, you know, and we're not getting nowhere like that.
Yep, nowhere at all. And that extends to things like just creativity. It being too politically correct and too focused on that as a goal stifles creativity. For example, the whole cultural appropriation thing.
Yes.
There is something to be said for being respectful of other cultures and not just taking bits of them willy-nilly and making a mockery of them. But there's also something to be said for cultural exchange.
Right. The world wouldn't be what it was today without cultural exchange. I mean, this even goes as far as when the Norse invaded fucking you know, mainland Britain. I mean, yes, it was horrible what they did, but
raping and pillaging and all that business, yeah.
But but everybody did that back then. I'm not trying to excuse that everybody was horrible back then.
Yeah.
But but look at the cultural exchange too. I mean, like, our modern day America wouldn't be here if that wouldn't happen. England would be a totally different place. I mean, you guys might be still speaking like Brythonic Gaelic or Celtic or whatever.
That's quite interesting, actually. I looked at a thing a while ago that was, what would English sound like if it had continued without all the other Latin-based languages coming in and polluting it, as it were. Yeah, there was a whole thing about what would English sound like if it continued only along its Germanic roots.
Or what if you go even further back than that? What if there was no Anglo-Saxon invasion? What if it was just Celtic? I mean, would everybody sound like they were Welsh or fucking like, you know, or
like they'd all be speaking
Gaelic? Yeah. So I mean, the world was a fucked up place back then, but it happened for, you know, it happened. It's just, so we can't take back what's happened.
No, you've just got to move forward from it. This is something I say when I'm talking about religions a lot as well, particularly about Christianity and its influence on Western cultures, is I will say, take the good bits and throw away the bad bits. So you've got to take the benefits of cultural exchange and build on those and try to mitigate all the negative things that have happened historically and still happen in many places today. You've got to try to get over the whole the negative things and use the positives.
Right. I mean, even as ardent atheist as I am, I have to admit that without the church, Western society would not be what it is today, because that was the one thing that brought all cultures together. That was the only reason that we advanced as much as we did. Yes, it held us back in certain areas, but there would have been no cultural exchange without the church. So even if people did come up, even if people did come up with ideas in isolated places, they would have never been able to find out about other people's ideas and you know, build on them. So I mean, it's kind of like you said. I mean, give and take.
The church has done many divisive things throughout its history, but it's also, you know, it's spread Western society across a great distance. And while the colonial aspect of that is not necessarily a good thing when you look back on it, the benefits of of it in the modern world, you can't really, you don't just want to throw all them out because somebody did some nasty colonial shit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, yes, a lot of bad shit happened, but that bad shit happening is what made the world what it is today. I mean, without it, I mean, the world would be a totally different place. I mean, I might still be here in America, but it would be a totally different America than what we're used to. I mean, would we have gained our independence eventually? Probably, I mean, but would it be the same? I don't know. It's hard to say. It's really hard to say. We could be speaking German right now or French, it's hard. It's really hard to say. I mean, what would have happened without the world being what it was?
Yeah. Another thing that I wanted to bring up is the whole political correctness thing stifles scientific advancement.
Yes.
Because things, well, what I've written down is offensive ideas are shouted down even if they have merit.
Yeah. Especially by like science deniers, like what we're going to get into, like fucking like, vaccine deniers or anti-vaxxers and creationists and I mean, all these climate deniers, all these people, I mean, are like, I mean, yeah, stuff's still being studied, but I think we could make a lot farther strides in it if there weren't people who the idea.
Yeah, and that's coming from what would, if you want to go with the whole left-right divide, that's science denial and avoidance of things that are uncomfortable to talk about from the so-called political right.
Yeah, that's from the other side.
An example of it from the so-called political left would be something that has just gone straight out of my brain as soon as I wanted to start saying it. Give me a second. What was it? That was it. The whole aspect of discussion around let's just pick two subjects that this happens around: trans issues and racial issues. Any scientific discussion that's not everyone is 100% equal all the time is essentially just shouted down by everyone saying that's offensive.
Right. What do you think? Like that goes with. Actually, I like what they're talking about in chat. What I've gathered from it is they're saying that if you come over here and you serve your country, then that should fast track you to becoming a citizen. I'm pretty sure that's what they're talking about.
Here's the thing. Translators in Afghanistan and Iraq, local people from those countries who, when British and American forces were there doing the whole war on terror thing, translated for those foreign militaries. Your country's military and my country's military.
Right.
Those people are now at great risk because they are seen as traitors by a lot of the local people.
Right. We should protect them because of that.
But one guy in particular, I think he's still struggling to get a visa to move to the UK. And he's been struggling with that for years. And I can't remember a lot of some of the details. I'd have to look it up. But I think he's now got asylum somewhere in possibly France. But he should have been moved to the United Kingdom when the military pulled out of that specific area. He should have been taken with them.
If you put him in that predicament and you're using him as a pawn, the least you can do is let him come back to your country. The least you can do is let him come back. I mean,
I think several of his family have been killed. If I'm remembering the thing I read correct.
That's ridiculous. When nations use people as pawns, like we were talking about earlier, they're people. They're not just a statistic or a number. They're a fucking living, breathing person.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty ridiculous.
That's something that is important to think about. In many different areas of life, like there's the debate about the NHS at the moment in my country. The NHS was a brilliant idea at the time it was created, which was that everyone pays.
Right after World War II. Is that when they created the NHS? Was it right after World War II?
I'd have to check the dates exactly, but the idea was everyone pays their taxes to fund this medical service, so that at the point of delivery of the medical service, you don't have to pay for it.
Right.
So that if you suddenly find, for example, a warehouse worker who essentially has a subsistence style of living, he makes enough money to survive week to week, suddenly develops cancer. Cancer treatments costs for one treatment more than he makes in a decade.
Wow.
The NHS is there so that society as a whole is able to fund those treatments for him.
And they're not funding it for him at all, or they're not paying all of it, or what?
The problem now is there have been massive cuts to the NHS, so it can't afford to do it. It can't afford to do its job properly.
So how are they working that out with your guys' healthcare then? Do you guys have to pay? Do you have to pay a premium? Do they pay like so much percentage of something, and you pay the rest?
That's a complicated issue. That is being debated back and forth by politicians, doctors, administrators, and everyone in this country constantly at the moment.
Right, because you can't just give people free healthcare. Well, not free, but I mean, essentially, they paid for it already. But you can't give them 100% healthcare and then come back later and be like, "Oh yeah, all that money you paid us? Well, fuck off! Yeah. You can't have your healthcare." I mean, what are they going to do? I mean, they have to do something.
I guess they'll die.
Yeah, well, someone's going to die.
Looking at them as statistics rather than as people.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
I'm trying to think of an example.
So why did they have to cut? Do you know why they had to cut the funding to the NHS?
Well, they didn't have to cut the funding to the NHS.
Or do you know why they cut the funding to the NHS, or why they thought they had to cut it?
Elections. The previous government that the two major parties are the Labour and Conservative. The Conservative is more on the right and the Labour is more on the left. That's generally how it fits with the standard political left-right divide of looking at things. Now, I'm not super knowledgeable about all the intricacies of the politics of it, but I think around 2010, the Conservative Party was voted into power. I need to check that I'm not talking out my ass. Just give me a second.
Okay.
I think it was around 2010. But they are a more conservative government. And the idea, they're trying to cut back on spending, get rid of the deficit, as it were. All the money that government borrows to pay for all the services it provides.
Right. America has a quite large one of them. I think our deficit's probably the largest in the world. I'm pretty sure we owe more money to everybody else than the entire world does. We're like trillions of dollars in debt. I'm sure you guys aren't far behind though.
Okay, 2015, 2010. Okay, yeah, it was 2010. The Conservatives took over government and started cutting back on everything. All kinds of government spending on a lot of services were cut back in order to try to reach.
Are the Conservatives the Tories?
Yes, they're the Conservatives are the Tories. They're the blue ones.
Okay. And then the other party is the Labour Party, right?
The Labour Party is the red ones.
Yeah. Okay.
They are they're supposedly that's the left-right divide in the UK, but it's actually quite considerably more complicated than that.
Right.
So the Conservative government massively slashed spending on the NHS, meaning that the NHS is now unable to provide all the services it is required to provide under its mandate. So there's a thing known as a general practitioner, which is the doctor that you would go to see.
Like your family doctor.
yeah, it's not quite a family doctor, but it often is effectively that. You know, there's
Yeah.
a GP surgery. You go to the GP surgery, and there's a few doctors there, nurses, general people who will give you checkups and do small medical procedures, you know, minor medical procedures, and they will refer you.
Our doctor's offices are essentially the same. Like, okay, like my doctor, like there's like probably 4 different doctors in the building, and then there's also what's right under a doctor, which would be a nurse practitioner.
Oh,
so
yeah.
they're like pretty much almost doctors, but they're not quite. Like they're like doctors of nursing, pretty much.
Yeah. Now there's so the idea is, you know, that you go to them for small things, and they refer you on to larger hospitals if you have something that they can't deal with. A lot of GP surgeries are closing down because the government is not funding them properly. And
there is no private healthcare sector in the UK, right?
There is.
There is a private healthcare sector?
There is a private healthcare sector. It's just not as prolific because most people use the NHS. Well, I say most. A lot of people use the NHS. I have, I think, had 1 private medical procedure, and almost everything else has been through the NHS. And the only reason I had that private medical procedure was because my GP surgery wouldn't do it, because it was essentially a cosmetic thing.
Uh-huh.
So,
and so it wasn't they didn't deem it medically necessary.
Yeah, it didn't even necessary for my continued survival. So so I had to pay for that myself.
Well, that makes sense, though. I mean, it does make sense.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing. I think that's part of the reason why British people are known for not having such amazing-looking teeth. Because dentists don't come under the NHS in the same way other medical procedures do.
Yeah, don't be fooled. All Americans don't have pearly whites. Maybe out in LA they do, but normal people, I mean, yeah, they have nicer teeth, but I mean, like, I never cared about. I didn't want braces when I was a kid. I fucking, you know, but my teeth are strong. That's what's important. You know,
so
not that they're,
for example,
perfectly straight.
Oh yeah. So for example, when I went to the doctor to have a checkup, that's free. When I go to the dentist to have a checkup, that costs me about 20 quid.
That's not too bad, though. 20 bucks.
Well, it depends. If they actually do anything, it costs considerably more.
Oh, I mean, but for just to be looked at, though, it'd be about 35 American dollars.
Your teeth are all right.
That's about 35 American dollars, right? 20 quid.
Something like that.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Oh, just answering there. Straight Sith Male says, "Hey Mole, who's the co-host?" And I said, "Me."
I told him who you were.
But just anyone who doesn't know who I am, hello, I am Bad Tempered Badger. I talk about things on the internet, and I'm a badger from England.
Yeah, we're the underground. We're in the underground. So, do you think that things are going to get progressively worse in the Western world with the political divisiveness because of people freaking out about everything?
I don't know, but I suspect in some ways they will. I think technology is going to have an impact on that, particularly social media, because everyone is able to so quickly find someone they disagree with and have a shouting match with them.
Sure.
You know, if you live with people, you kind of have to be polite to an extent. Whereas I can find someone on the other side of the world who thinks that abortion's a good idea. Who thinks that banning abortion is a good idea, and I can have a shouting match with them with no repercussions to myself, because I don't have to live with that person afterwards.
Right. So what makes you? Why do you think both the left and the right are why do you think everything's so fucked up nowadays. What do you think caused political correctness to take over? I can't put my finger on one thing, but I have no idea how it blew up. I don't know what happened. I can't. I mean, maybe I'm too old and I just like I missed it somewhere, and because I don't know what's going on in the younger people's world.
I'm
But
not sure. I think technology is a part of it. I think there's that whole what do you call it, window, Overton window, is it? With the whole what is currently acceptable to talk about shifting over time.
Yeah,
I think there's
like
an aspect.
I have a friend, Cabby. He's British as well, and I said that the internet is like a way for British people to to blow off steam, like so they don't have to use to keep the stiff upper lip. I said the internet's a way for British people to fucking act like asses and get away with it. I was just joking, obviously. I'm sure you guys aren't stiff upper lip all the time.
Oh well, the good ones are.
You do have football hooligans over there, for Christ's sakes.
Yeah, like I said, the good ones are. England, certain members of
I
British
love
people.
England. I love their fucking some of their was it General was it who is it was it the guy that won Waterloo, was it the Duke of Wellington that was hanging out with the other guy and the other guy had his leg blown off? He's like oh dear me, I think they've just blown my leg off. like
Oh dear,
straight face, oh dear me.
Just they're like, oh bother.
I think they blew me bloody leg off. That's fucking crazy. Yeah, that's funny.
But yeah, I think there is a certain aspect of British culture that we tend to export to other countries that isn't very good. It's the whole. It's people who don't really think about what they're doing, going to other places on holiday and making a mess of things. I think part of the problem with that is the ease of travel to other European countries has meant that a lot of people who really shouldn't be going to other places are.
Right. Well, I'm sure Americans are much worse, but at least we don't travel. Like most Americans never are not very traveled, thank goodness, because they would make a horrible impression on the rest of the world. They already hate us, and they have every right to. I mean, Americans are really they're ignorant when it comes to outside cultures. Like my mom is from Europe, so I grew up knowing a little bit more about Europe. But I mean, a lot of people are really dumb when it comes to other. Like, I mean, if you showed someone a map without the names on it, I bet you 8 out of 10 adults couldn't name 15 countries without the names on them. I almost guarantee it. I almost guarantee it. I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure.
I did read a thing a little while ago. Just let me see if I can find it. It was about a study that was done. That is not how you open that, is it? The study that was done about people's opinions on political correctness. That's the topic. It's about people's opinions on political correctness and how a lot more people than you would suspect are actually hostile towards it. They're just not. There it is. This I'm going to be quoting some things from theatlantic.com. I don't know if anybody will tell me that's awful, you should never read that, but I just found this. Somebody linked it to me on Twitter, so I had a look. There was a study done by someone somewhere, Hidden Tribes, a study of America's polarized landscape. There it is. Says that quite a large majority of people in America are at least mildly opposed to the idea of political correctness. Although in the study they didn't define exactly what that meant, so they let people define it for themselves and then state their opinion on it.
I wonder what most of them. I mean, I wonder if most of their definitions were at least close to the correct, the actual definition of it. I mean, you would think that they would have got a more accurate study if they would have all gave them the same definition and let them um, formulate their idea once they already know what the definition is. Because, I
Mm.
mean, their definitions could be fucking totally off from each other's. You know, I don't know. It just doesn't seem as scientific as it could be.
Well, I think it's supposed to be a little ambiguous to partly to get ideas about what people think it means.
Oh, okay, that might be true.
I think that's kind of the point of it, but I agree that you would get more accurate. Well, in some ways, you'd get more accurate information if you clearly defined clearly said, you know, this is what I mean by this. What do you think of that? But I think also people have their own preconceived notions about what it means and would probably still talk about that rather than the definition they were given.
Yeah, you're probably right. What do you? So, what do you think causes the? It does seem like a large percentage of people are overly selfish nowadays. Like I said, that might just be the technology thing, and maybe people have been that way all along. But I don't know. It seems like people worry about petty things way more now, and they just seem more self-involved than they have ever been. I mean, that's just my opinion. That could be way off base, but that's just what I think.
That's kind of what it looks like to me as well. People are in general quite well, they're quite much more concerned about themselves than others a lot of the time.
Yeah, and I think what you said hit the nail right on the head when you said that people aren't they're just joining a tribe. They're not like thinking. I mean, like if they agree on a couple of things on that platform, they just pick that platform instead of fucking sifting through the ideas and making an informed decision. I think they're just joining the tribe essentially, and whatever that tribe says goes, that's what goes. I essentially think that's the way people make
I
their
think a lot of people do that. I think some people do need to do that to an extent, though, because there is. I know this isn't particularly politically correct to say, but it is necessary to acknowledge that around half the population has below average intelligence.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're right. I would say
because that's how averages work, obviously.
100. Average is 100. That's the average IQ. They say average is about 100.
Yeah,
but like, but even go up to like 125, like the 125, 130 range, and then that's less than 13% of people in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, I don't know if you know.
That's even lower.
Yeah, I don't know if you know where you fall on that range.
I was tested by a psychologist when I was in 7th grade, and I scored about a 137.
Oh, okay. I'm somewhere up towards that range, but I've taken a few sort of just online ones, which are notoriously perfectly accurate every time.
That's why I've taken a few of them too, but I always score in the 130s, the high 120s. So a few of them are 140s, but I just take the psychologist because he's a trained, they're trained to do that. So
that's the thing. Also, you have to appreciate that there are different kinds of intelligence.
Right, exactly.
So someone may be well below average in the IQ department, but may still be a very, very nice person.
Or very creative
at specific things.
Yeah, they could be very creative artisans. You don't have to be brilliant to be an artist.
Yeah, that's the thing again. That's the thing again. People are people, not just numbers.
Right.
But even people, you have to accommodate people who can't necessarily grasp the concepts that you can grasp.
Right. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Unfortunately, to be honest, I'm not saying this to toot my horn or anything, but just in general, when I go out in society, that's why I spend a lot of my time on the internet, because I can talk to like-minded people. If I must be honest, when I go and talk to normal people around, like my friends, locally, they talk about dumb, trivial shit that has that gathers. I mean, like like
Yeah.
sports and cars and bullshit like that. I'm like, oh man,
Oh, absolutely.
I'm like, I don't really want to talk about. I mean, can't we like? When I try to bring shit up, and they're like, "Wow, dude, you need a life." I'm like, well, I mean, you can think that if you want, but I just don't enjoy learning stuff. It is what it is. So, should we invite a couple people in?
Yeah, I was just about to say, should we see if anyone wants to join us?
I'm gonna type in anybody want a link because it'll take them like a minute before they hear it.
Outstanding. Right, I'll get ready to switch to multi-person view.
All right, cool. Yeah, I'll quit.
Yeah. You'll need to switch it so it's not presenting, and then we'll do the thing. Yeah. Let me find my normal avatar. There he is.
Okay.
Oh no, what have I done?
Should be done. You should be done presenting.
Oh no. There we go. No, Am I back to my normal face?
No, you're still two people. I'm gonna send Duke one. He wanted one. I know he did. So
hopefully I'm back to my normal face now. There we go.
Oh shit! I better make sure that I got fucking the right.
Yeah, you got your emoji face there.
No, I mean I said I better make sure I got the right thing to copy and paste.
Oh, the right link. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Okay.
He said I'd take a link. Does that mean you want a link or you would take one? Because I'd take a link means you would take one, but you don't want one. So I need the context there, guy.
Where are you going to take it?
Yeah. Where are you taking it to? Okay, Duke is sent. Any other offers?
That's something I've been doing a little bit recently is getting into discussions on Twitter, but also trying not to get into too many.
Because we're going to switch to some...
so that can take up time.
Some answers in Genesis and some debunking of science articles now, if anybody wants one.
That's something I've done once or twice. Is I'll be discussing with someone on Twitter and they'll go, well, what about this? And then I've got to sit there for 2 hours researching this before I've got anything useful to say.
I'll send Stags a link. I bet he'd want one. I'm just going to send a few people.
I might start calling him Jaggers and Stags.
Yeah, he's went by that for a while. He went by that before. For a while, actually, I believe. So, do you got them articles pulled up? Any of them?
I did.
Oh,
Where's they gone now? Oh, they're on my other window. There they are.
Yeah, go ahead and look through them and pick one out. We'll start talking about one.
Well, I think we may have a few People may have a few PC-related things to say when they arrive, but we'll see how we do.
All right.
Oh dear, that's something I read about. Oh, that'll be fun. I'm going to answer some Genesis here. It says, plants evolve, in quotes, to do oh, dear. They're great fun answers in Genesis.
They are.
They're an absolute disaster.
Brant, do you follow me on Twitter? I'm pretty sure he does, but I'm pretty sure he does. Let's see.
This is something I've been doing recently. Have you seen that Pastor John Hagee guy on the Twitters?
I don't know.
He keeps posting, doing finger quotes, inspirational Christian messages all over Twitter. And I keep appearing in the comments just saying, yeah, but no. Good example was one he did. He keeps putting stuff up about calling on the Lord and praying and stuff. And I keep putting the little gifs of people on the phone with his frustrated face that says no answer.
Hey, Staggers.
What's up, guys?
How are you,
Good morning.
sir?
I'm good. Well, it's morning for me. I just woke up, but it's afternoon.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Close enough. Do you have anything you'd like to add? We were talking about political correctness, but now we're going to look at some AIG articles and another. I found this. It's called Debunking Denialism. It's a pretty cool website. It's called Fighting Pseudoscience with Reason and Evidence. They got things about HMOs and anti-vaxxers and stuff like that. It's a pretty neat website. It's actually something I'm going to keep looking into, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's cool. We might be able to use that as a resource for information.
It's really cool. It's really cool, and it's got there's one thing I want to look at. It's on here. It's called Science Denialist Tactics, and it's got a few different things. It's got here's some of the things they say. They got fake experts, false balance, conspiratorial thinking, distorting quotes, merchants of doubt, selective skepticism, cherry picking, moving the goalpost, obfuscating basic science, anomaly hunting, confusing mechanism with fact, manufacturersy, playing the martyr card, blowing honest errors out of proportion, and gish galloping. So that's
nice.
That's pretty cool. It looks like a really cool website, though. I've looked at a few articles. Like there's one article about witchcraft will not save your marriage or some shit. I don't know. It's pretty funny.
I was dating a witch for a minute. I haven't really talked to her because we just kind of quit talking. I don't know. She didn't really have all that much time to hang out with me, so I just quit calling her. I figured she'd call me if she wanted to hang out. She just hasn't. But she's a witch. She's a witch. I don't really care. It's fine. Like, whatever. But she was telling me about. I started in to tell her about because we've known each other for a few years, but we haven't hung out really. And back then, I used to believe in all the woo-woo and shit, and I knew she was a witch, and so
Let me get the chat.
I started telling her like I'm trying to tell her about my YouTube channel and how I'm a skeptic and stuff, but I only got like halfway through the sentence, and I mentioned like spirits and demons. Hadn't got to the part where I don't believe any of that stuff, and she just interrupts me and tells me, "Oh, I summon demons and spirits and stuff all the time," and I'm like, okay, you know, like, and then later on, when my kids were there, we were talking about Taekwondo, and she was talking about how she studied snake kung fu, and I was like, oh, okay.
Oh, that's a thing. That is an actual martial arts thing.
Yes, it is. It is an actual martial arts, but just knowing her and knowing how she is, she's going to try to think or try to express that it's a great method of self-defense or something like that. And martial arts are not synonymous with self-defense. That's my new big area of skepticism. Some of my videos I'm going to make are going to be on martial arts.
I have to look at some of your martial arts things, I think.
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of. Oh, go ahead, Stax.
And she told me she broke a mirror with a chi ball.
Like energy chi ball.
Yeah, like a Hadouken.
That's outstanding.
Yeah, that's
Sonic
funny.
Boom.
But she's like a real life Daphne Rimmel kind of.
Not as bad.
Okay, but I mean along them lines.
Yeah, but I just, I'd hang out with her if she called me up, but she wasn't like giving back much. You know what I mean? I wasn't getting much from her in any way, whether it was her time or her sex or anything. I'm not trying to say she didn't fuck me, so I don't want to hang out with her, but she didn't. Like,
but she didn't, and you don't.
That was just a part of it, though. That was a part of it.
That is a part of an adult relationship. So there's nothing wrong with that, dude. I mean, it is what it is. Like a couple weeks ago.
The first night we hung out. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was saying a couple weeks ago when I first got dumped. Of course I was fucking pretty sad, but the more distance I get, like the more I think maybe I dodged a bullet, because I did have a lot of worries, like, how would it work out if we got married? And like, we both think differently about how to raise her child. But I mean, I've raised him since he was a baby, so I should have some say so. I mean, I didn't know
you guys weren't together anymore.
Yeah, I got dumped. I got dumped for being a stinky atheist. Stinky as in
about that, yeah.
Stinky as in I smoke cigarettes and weed, and she don't like the smell of it. And my atheism is a big part of it, though. Like she thought she could deal with it, but she just couldn't. Now we're still friends. I mean, she's a great person. I mean, I still love her. I mean, but like, the more time I have to think about it, she's right. We're better off apart. We're not the same. We're nothing like each other.
And for people like us who have dug ourselves into this skeptic label, it's really hard for that to not be a deal breaker. And for them too, for the Christians, because it's the same for them. They have these expectations of people, and we have these expectations of people, like using your brain, and they have expectations of people like paying your tithing and taking the sacrament. And it's like, they just aren't compatible. They really aren't. I've tried to figure out how to make it not be a deal breaker, and I just can't reconcile it. I can't figure out how to make it not be a deal breaker.
I mean, because we're too wrapped up in it. It's our beliefs. I mean, you're not going to just ditch your beliefs. I mean,
here's one of the ways I look at it. There is way more to it than just not believing in God.
Oh yeah.
If I meet a girl who believes in God, that's fine, but as long as we can discuss the epistemology. She's not an anti-vaxxer. She doesn't believe in magic. She believes in evidence-based medicine, all this type of stuff. But somebody who has no skepticism or no critical thinking skills, that gives me clues as to what kind of a person they are and what sort of things I should expect from them in the future.
Right. Yes.
You know what I mean?
Well,
and they're going to be crossing their fingers and praying for stuff to happen while I'm trying to build a foundation.
I think part of the thing there is you've got to be compatible in a lot of different ways, and just views on religion are just one part of that.
Yeah, that's a huge part, though. I mean, with me and Heather, it was a huge thing, you know.
But it's indicative of their way of thinking. That's the way.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, she lives the life of. I mean, her dad's a pastor. She's a hardcore Pentecostal. So I mean, she isn't just one of the flaky, you know, goes to church on fucking Christmas and Easter.
Yeah.
I mean, she went every Sunday and every Wednesday, that kind of thing, you know.
And that makes you not only the frustrating boyfriend that she can't get to go to church. That makes you the goddamn devil.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You're
around here in the jolly old England. It's all Church of England things when it comes to, well, it's mostly Church of England when it comes to Christianity.
Yeah, Anglican, right?
People don't take it very seriously. People take it quite loosely, just as a general kind of. It's more cultural than religious for most people, and for the people it's religious for, most of them are just quite casual about it. Just, oh yeah, well, it's fine. You know, we've got this. It's comforting to have this nice background belief, but I you know, if I get sick, I'm going to the doctor. I'm not going to be there praying about it all day. But there are some people who take it a little bit too seriously around here as well. I grew up in a small village where the local church was a bit culty, and they would manipulate people in ways that caused them long-term mental health problems.
Here's the thing, though.
I forgot how this was linked to what you were talking about.
That's all right. How do you respect the people who don't take it seriously, though? Now, this might seem like an odd question at first, but what I see is them sitting on the fence.
Yeah, like, right.
I mean, if it's like Penn Jillette said, and I've seen other atheists who tore him apart for saying this, but I agree with him. He respects the proselytizers, the missionaries, the people who come knock on your door to save your life. He doesn't. He doesn't.
Real.
Yeah. If you really believe that I'm going to hell, and the metaphor he uses, if I know that there is a truck bearing down on you, I'm going to scream. I'm going to yell at you. I'm going to try to get your attention. And if all that fails, I am going to physically tackle you.
Right. And that's how Christians are, essentially. I mean, that's why I had to respect Heather, because she is a devout Christian. She lives the life. She isn't one of them flaky Christians who just believes, but that doesn't take it seriously. So I at least had to respect her for having integrity. I mean, I don't agree with it, but at least she has the integrity to be honest about what she believes.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's a good word.
Here's how I view it, though. I have a great deal of respect for the integrity of the words. How do they happen? I have a great deal of respect for the proselytizers and the people who stick entirely to their beliefs and everything that entails, but I'd rather they didn't do it near me.
All right. Yeah, of course.
Like when I was
of course. But what I'm talking about is when you compare them to the middle grounders and you go, okay, so you believe I'm going to go to hell, but you're not going to try to help me.
I was walking through town with a friend of mine a little while ago. This was maybe a year or so ago. We were walking through town. There was a guy standing right in the middle of the city centre, shouting away, reading from his Bible. So he was there talking away, and me and my friend, we like to quote films to each other. So as we were walking past, he was doing an exasperated Harrison Ford voice, just going, "Jesus Christ." And the guy just lowers his Bible slightly, looks at him and goes, "Jesus Christ is Lord." And my friend just goes, "Oh no, he ain't."
I'll be right back, guys. I'm going to grab coffee.
The way I look at it, though, is it's not just about them proselytizing to me or to other people. It's about how they go about their own business. Oh, yes, I'm a Christian. I'm absolutely Christian. I absolutely believe that you have to exercise this. Oh, the Super Bowl's on? The Super Bowl's on? Oh, okay, we're going to watch the Super Bowl this Sunday. You know what I mean? Like, oh, well, we're not supposed to eat. You know, I don't know where Christians got the idea that they're allowed to eat pork. But
Well,
They're
I
not.
think it's just
They
I
shouldn't
think a lot of
be.
them haven't actually read the book.
Right. But the ones that have, I have a little bit. At least they have the courage of their convictions to stand behind what they believe in. You know what I mean?
If you talk to, there's a chap who I think a lot more skeptical atheisty people should have discussions with. I did a debate and a few chats with him on my channel called Mr. Alpha 4. He's a Catholic guy. He would point out that there are all kinds of justifications that do make sense if you come from that line of thinking. You know, if you do believe these things, there are all kinds of things about how the old covenant of the Old Testament was fulfilled, and so the rules are different now.
See, I've never bought the idea that Jesus fulfilled the old law, but I have heard a different excuse. And that different excuse was that old law was for Jews.
That's another thing that people will say. But there is an argument that I have come up against, because my usual perspective on most religious views is that they are incapable of changing beyond a certain degree of flexibility, because they have to stick to their holy texts, whereas I try to base my things on scientific understanding and reason and evidence, which is entirely variable based on what the evidence shows. And I point that out as an advantage of not being stuck in a religious line of thinking. But there is a particular line of argument, which is that God presented ideas to people as and when society was able to handle those ideas, like the idea that slavery in the Bible was kind of, you know, if you're going to have slaves, here's how to do it. And then that's in the Old Testament, and then in the New Testament they say, well, you know, that Jesus's reevaluation of the rules is where you really shouldn't. But there is some merit to that line of thinking if it leads people to beneficial practices. Go on.
Now, you have to believe in evolution for that to be the case. Otherwise, Adam was made every bit of man as I am. Maybe more so, better. He was better at being a man than I am, and he lived longer. So if our society today, if we can understand that slavery is wrong now, why couldn't we then?
Well, I don't know. I'm not coming from their line of thinking.
Yeah,
but, I can put you in touch with a guy. You could have a whole hours-long chat with about that if you want.
Because now you're talking about evolution of society. No, that'd be great.
Well, he's from the Catholic perspective on the side of he'll believe that evolution is a thing and all that kind of stuff. You'd have to have a chat with him about how he reasons that out.
Well, if he's coming from that more Catholic mindset, the papal mindset of, look, we're at the top of the world, we can't deny science that loudly, you know what I mean? So I mean, it's a little harder to argue with those people because they have less integrity, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. They'll accept a lot of shit, but then they come back to this idea of God, but they've walked completely around the Bible to get to God. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the thing I keep coming up against.
And it's like, so where are you getting this God from then? Like, we got the idea of God. You're getting the idea of God from the Bible, but then you're walking all the way away from and around the Bible to get to God because the Bible's nonsense, and we know that.
The Bible completely contradicts your entire line of thinking, unless you just take a very loose, some kind of extra universal being that created everything concept.
Well, no, that's what I mean. How do you even get that? Because that's against the Bible. That's not what the Bible teaches. The Bible does not teach about that God. So if you're getting to that God, you're not getting it from the Bible. So if you're getting the idea of God from the Bible, then taking the Bible out from under it, then changing God into something else, God's not even got anything under it. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, how would you...
So what God are they talking about? That's what I mean. Like,
what gives you the idea that this God is a singular being or a thinking entity or even an entity at all, rather than just some kind of other chain of events that we can't possibly comprehend because it's outside the universe.
All the better for my argument.
Mm-hmm. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. I agree with you. And I agree with you entirely there.
Yeah, if that's the case, then you are not talking about a God that came out of the Bible. So where do you even get the idea that this thing exists in the first place? Where do you start with this idea of God? If you know what I mean, and they will start at the Bible.
Oh, absolutely.
And you walk them right back through the whole thing again, and they'll go.
It's a whole back. You know, it's a whole line of thinking just to try to make this ancient book make sense.
Well, it's the opposite of circular reasoning. They go God's real because the Bible says it is, and you go, okay, but the Bible is wrong about this and this and this and this and this, and they go, I know it is. The Bible's wrong about a lot of stuff. In fact, God isn't really what the Bible says he is. God's something different. Well, how do you know God exists? Because the Bible says it does.
Right. And if God is out of our space and time, you know, if he's no part of our space and time, that's why science can't find him. You know, that's what Christians say. He's not a part of our space and time. Then how can he have any effect on our space and time if he's not even a part of our space and time?
He's not a part of reality. That's what
well, that essentially, yeah. Hi, Jen. I was going to say something, but I forgot. Damn fucking reefer. Damn it! Damn reefer.
That's why you see this cigar you see me smoking here is only the best of herbal remedies. You know, it's.
Fuck! I went to Colorado last week because it's just really close, and got some really good sativa and some dabs and stuff. And fuck, man, shit was keeping me up till like 3 o'clock in the morning, dude. I was like, God damn it. I gotta go to bed. What the fuck? Play one more video game.
Oh, dear. Well, what was I gonna say? Oh, have you seen this? No, go on, Mr. Moldy.
I was just gonna say you can say what you're gonna say. I was just gonna say that you know you were talking about how where did God come from? I found these Answers in Genesis articles, and they're talking about other religions, and I just got a kick out of how they don't take into account like why is the Bible so similar to other like older books than even Christianity, you know, or even Judaism, and like it like just wait until you hear their fucking their reasoning behind it. It's pretty funny, dude. You'll get a kick out of it.
Hold on, I want to know what it is because I have a good answer for that.
Well,
I was just gonna say the article I'm referring to is an article about Zoroastrianism.
Oh, I see. Well, what I would have said was, and I was never like, you couldn't say I was a Catholic or this or that or anything like that. I would say that God gave different messages to different people throughout different times. And most of the stuff that's written down in the Bible wasn't God-given anyway. It's just history and old tales. But the core, the things that are the same, those are the important bits. Those are the ones you got to keep. The stuff that stays the same through all the stories. And that's the truth. That's what I would have said.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that would be and that's kind of how they go about answering that.
Well, here's a thing that I keep coming back to as a concept. I keep repeating myself about this all over the place, and it's just keep the good things like cultural traditions, the aspects of morality from different religions that are beneficial in the modern world. Get rid of all the superstition and negative stuff that's holding you back, and move forward. You know, so for example. Part of that in my own country, part of the cultural tradition of my country is the whole Christmas business.
Right. Well, like just any Western nation, pretty much.
Yeah, most Western nations have varying but similar traditions around Christmas. It's a big part of the cultural tradition that everything stops for a week or so around it, and you just people have a rest.
We always have a trampling.
Yep. And before that, everyone murders each other trying to buy presents.
Mm-hmm. That's how we celebrate it in America. Yeah.
That's a big part of the cultural tradition. I don't personally like it, just because I don't like the whole commercialism and the forced friendliness and all that business. But I can see that it causes a lot of good and a lot of happiness for a lot of people. So I think you should keep that. And I think the whole idea of separating the religion from it so that everyone can enjoy a midwinter family festival is a good
It
thing.
doesn't have to be secular. Sorry, it doesn't have to be religious. It can be secular and still keep the getting together of family. And I mean, let's just keep it the way it is. Essentially, I mean, what is it? It's a day to spend money, is what it is, and spend.
I was probably in the 6th grade before I realized Christmas had anything to do with Jesus at all.
Right.
I'm like, wait a minute, what is this? Oh, Christ, that's what this is about?
Christ Mass. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No, it's cool. It's cool if you don't. I don't like it too much for the same reasons, Badger, similar reasons. We literally, I don't know if it's the same in your country, we literally have people trampled to death most years here. Like
last year or so, when I've been in the last few years, they've tried to make Black Friday a thing in the UK. And I've been here just going, no, piss off. We don't want it here.
It's so sick. It's so disgustingly evil and vile and just base. And then it was called Black Friday because it was a black day. It was a bad day. And they called it Black Friday because it was so bad. And now they call it Black Friday. We're having a Black Friday sale, everybody. Come on down to the Black Friday sale and try not to die.
I thought it was Black Friday because that was the one day of the year that all the books were actually in the black for their profit margin. Really? I mean, I thought like the rest of the year they lost money and they're in the red, and that's when they made all their money back, was that day.
This thing, I do not want everyone trampling each other trying to get in the shops in my country.
It ruins Christmas.
We've got enough problem. I went to London start of this year, or was it? No, it was last year. I went to London to see some friends of mine. I was thinking, if I lived here, I'd kill myself. It's just massively overcrowded. There's people everywhere.
How many people are in London?
Too many. Let me look it up.
Yeah.
I live in a town of about 12,000 people, and it's not bad. I don't ever bump into people.
Yeah, mine's about 12,000 people, and maybe at Walmart or some shit, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to go to Walmart.
I'm antisocial. I don't like being around people.
Same. I going to Walmart is like an operation to me.
How many zeros are on a million?
I like having my kids with me when I go, though. They keep me company, and they make the whole trip feel different for me. Right. It doesn't feel like I'm just trying to hurry through there and dodge people and stuff. It just feels like I'm wandering through there with my kids and talking to them. And then I ignore everybody else when my kids are around. The rest of the world doesn't bother me at all. I'm not embarrassed by anything. I'm not worried about the volume of my voice, or if anybody sees me, or if anybody sees, you know what I mean? My kids, it's weird. I understand how parents can be so embarrassing to their kids now because they don't care. It doesn't bother me. The only thing I'm focused on is their little minds. You know what I mean?
Greater London population is apparently 8 million, roughly.
8 million. It's got to be one of the top.
825,000.
Is that one of the greater area of London?
Oh, I don't know. I think that's I think that might actually just be the area surrounding London, and not counting the people in the main central area.
Yeah, because I was gonna say that doesn't sound quite as big as I thought. Maybe.
Did you say that was the greater London area?
Yeah, the greater
8
London.
Million? Yeah, because the greater Chicago area, I think, is like 8 million as well.
There we
are. That's not just Chicago. That's like, Chicago.
I think that's the areas surrounding central London. I think. Hang on. Let me look this up on somewhere other than the Wikipedia. Maybe I can get some corroborating evidence that'll tell me what these numbers actually mean.
Google says 8 million, which compared to New York City is, yeah, it's New York City's got barely, like, it's got 3 million more, 4 million more, or not 4 million, sorry, 400,000 more, not 4 million more. Only 400,000 more in New York City than in London. 8.5 million in New York. So that's probably right. See what the population of Salt Lake is. It's still pretty big. It's got to be one of the biggest cities in the world.
Yeah, it's a major central city in a major Western country.
Salt Lake City, 200,000. That's got to be just the city.
Right. To answer Joan in the chat, antisocial as both. I'm an introvert. I don't like being around people more than I have to be. Oh,
yeah.
That was how I realized I was in London when I went up to London. Me and my friend were walking down the street, and there was a crossing of the road. Somebody trying to walk across the road, and they nearly got run over by a cyclist. That cyclist went past the person. There was a red light for traffic, but the cyclists, cyclists there going, "Oh, that's for cars. That doesn't apply to me." So almost ran this person over on a crossing. The person goes, "There's a red light," and the cyclist just glances over his shoulder at the person and goes, "Shut your fucking mouth," and cycles off. I was like, me and my friend just looked at myself and went, "Yeah, we're in London now."
Yeah,
I live in a little dinky town in the middle of a cornfield.
Yeah,
last
time I was in Salt Lake, well, maybe not last time, but a few times ago. This time I remember this girl I was dating a couple years ago. We went out there for her. She had an anaplastic astrocytoma.
That's weird, son.
That's a brain tumor. It's a super bad brain tumor.
Oh, I was like, that's weird sounding. Don't sound good.
We had to go out to the Huntsman Cancer Institute out there, but I remember we were driving around, like, just trying to find our way, go like 35 miles an hour out of, maybe the speed limit was 40 miles an hour or 45 or something like that. It's dark, and we're trying to find our road, and this fucking car behind us is like honking and riding up our ass and shit, and they pulled up beside us, and it was this lady, like 25 ish years old. If she had any kids, they were under 2, I'm sure. And she was well dressed, and she's fucking like, so angry, like, "It's 45," and I'm like, huh? She goes, "It's 45," and she's right next to me. I'm like, "What?" Like, 4, 5, and I go, "Fuck you!" And she's like, "What, motherfucker?" Rolls down her window to start saying some shit, and my girlfriend's fucking head explodes. She turns into a fucking Tasmanian devil and is like, I think she spit on the lady. I was like, whoa.
That's funny.
As we drove away, like, she was yelling at her, like, I'm like, great. My girlfriend's got a plate in her fucking head where she had brain surgery. You know what I mean? She can't get in a fight. If she gets out of the car, I have to get out of the car. Mm-hmm. It's like, no, stop. I was trying to make fun of the girl. You know what I mean?
Right. Like, girl lady was ready to rock.
She was ready to fucking tear her head out. Her daughter's in the back, like 9 years old. Like, she's about to cry. I'm like, it's okay, it's fine. You need to settle down. Like, you need to stop. We're driving away. I'm like, why did you spit on her? What the fuck?
Like my first wife, I'm one of them people that, like, we'd go to
I'm
a
gonna be
restaurant.
right back. Just get a drink.
No problem. We go through a drive-through, go to a restaurant, and like they would make just a small mistake, like they'd forget mustard or something, you know, and like she would go up there and be like, I want to talk to the manager. I'm like, and she would just make the biggest fucking scene. I'm like, would you fucking just stop? I'm like, Jesus, man, it's mustard for Christ's sakes. I'm like, you don't have to act like a fucking psychopath, do you? Oh man, that shit's embarrassing. I hate that shit.
You know what I do if I get back to my sandwich and it's got tomato on it? I didn't want a fucking tomato on it.
I take it off.
Take the fucking tomato or eat it.
Right. Even
Like,
if they forget something, I'll go up quietly and be like, hey, you forgot something, and they're like, okay, no problem, and they'll fix it. You know, you don't have to fucking act like a jackass.
The people have the
minimum
sense of
wage.
entitlement. They get the wrong idea. A lot of customers get the wrong idea that I'm going to be treated like a king in here and they owe you. They don't fucking owe you shit.
Right.
If you want a cheeseburger, they will make one for you if you pay them.
Right. And most of them are kids, for Christ's sakes. I mean, like, come on, dude, fucking lighten up, man. They're just kids. I mean, like, they're 16 years old, 17 years old, you know?
Now, if it's fucked up and they give me a hard time and they give me a lot of shit, if I do go up there, then I'll be an asshole to them. But I'm still not going to explode in front of everybody. I'll just tell them in my own special way what I think. You know what I mean? But
I'll tell them exactly what I think of their service.
Yeah, and then I won't go back.
I'll wait until I get my sandwich, talk shit, though. That way, fucking, I don't get anything extra on it I didn't want.
What I love is when you're in a restaurant or something, and you hear somebody going, "The last 4 times I came here, my order was fucked up," and it's like, "Well, are you dumb?"
Oh yeah, why did you keep coming?
Yeah, how many times does it take?
Hi guys, is my audio okay?
Your audio is great.
Yes, you're so fine.
How's it going?
It's going all right. How's it going with you, man? Long time no see.
I've just been busy today, and I figured I'd jump in and bullshit with you guys for a minute.
That's fine. It's a long time no see.
Yeah, same there.
Oh, wow.
How you doing, Staggerson? Sorry.
Good, man.
How you been, Staggerson? I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, I'm pretty good, man. How are you? I've had a lot of changes. I'm in a new place, changing everything up. Not got my kids. Don't have a lot of time to make content or do hangouts anymore, but I'm trying.
Right.
I'm gonna grab a cup of coffee though.
Yeah, I just had to go get me some. Need some fuel. Vroom, vroom.
I've just got myself a glass of the good stuff.
Some tea.
Oh no, I'm onto the rum now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's getting late. What time is it? It's like 8:30 there, right?
Yeah, it's 8:30 now. Yes.
So what's new with you?
The good stuff.
Yeah? What you been up to?
So, hey, Mole, is Godless Erwin still doing videos?
Yeah, Godless Island?
Yeah.
Yeah, he just had a stream like right before they were streaming right before I came, or before I started. I started mine at 1. They started 1. Theirs at noon.
Yeah,
it was really.
YouTube's been shadow banning me from certain channels for some really weird reason.
That's doing that bullshit again, is it?
I don't know if it's a screw up or what the fuck's going on, but all I know is, I was wondering because you mentioned him earlier, and I was like, wait, I used to watch that channel. So if it's still going,
I'm going to his wedding. I'm going to his wedding on Halloween.
Oh, awesome!
Because I only live one state away from him.
As well, it stopped showing me. I used to watch this guy called Rob Dyke. I think it stopped showing me any of his videos.
Yeah, Rob Dyke's still on. I come every now and then it'll pop up in my recommended on my Xbox.
Yeah, I went back. I suddenly remembered I used to watch this guy talking about like conspiracy theories and horror stories and stuff. What happened to him? I looked him up, and he's been making videos constantly for all this time, and it just hasn't shown any of them to me. I've been on
a big history kick lately. I've been watching like Louis Beige and History of Hilbert.
I like a bit of Mr.
Beat. And Mr. Beat's cool. The Cynic Historian's pretty neat. Just different history channels. I've been watching a lot of different history channels.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you get the idea that I'm gonna dance? Where's that come
Oh, I
from?
was going to ask you to dance as well.
Burn, baby, burn. Disco Inferno.
I hate when I know there's a live stream on somebody's channel, but say that I don't have a link to it, right? But I know they're doing it right now. So I go to my subscription feed.
Yep.
And it's not there. So I look over at my little thing, and usually the live streams are over on the side if you're on the web browser. And it says everybody's live streaming. It's not there. So I go and I click on their channel, and it's not there. So I click on their videos, and it's not. You got to click a little drop down arrow that says live streams, and then you'll find it. Then there it is. There. Now
I have to find
it.
that drop down arrow because I've got no idea where it is.
Okay, I'm gonna shill a friend now. You guys should all check out Blind Press.
Who? Blind Press?
Yes, Blind Press. She is an actual blind chick that does YouTube morning shows.
Oh, cool. What's her topics usually?
News stories, Canadian stuff, disabled stuff. Just that she's really cool. I suggest trying it out. If you don't like it, you don't.
What's her leaning?
Blind Press.
Yeah. How does she lean?
Her leaning is definitely more right wing than left.
Join me as I talk about life, news, politics, nerdy things, and offer my perspective on it all as a blind person. Please consider following the Patreon stuff.
I'll check her out.
I'll give her a shot.
I'll have a look at it later on. I shouldn't say have a look, should I? Political correctness and all that.
She's definitely gonna notice 3 or 4 people subscribing to her channel all at once.
Yeah.
But yeah, you should definitely check it out. She has good content. She's a very open-minded, cool stoner chick. That's
cool. Well, I have
a question for you, Mr. Sith. I see you've got a whole kind of Sith theme going there. What do you make of all of the latest Disney Star Wars fiascos? Oh, I think he's vanished for a sec. Oh, there he is.
Also, don't get me confused with white Sith male. We are two.
Oh, no, I gather he's a different Sith.
I promise I will not. Unless you start acting like him.
What do you make of this whole Disney Star Wars fiasco that's going on at the moment, Mr. Sith?
Oh, well, it makes me want to almost change my username. No, you know what? Honestly, I think Rogue One held water. Rogue One was good.
I enjoyed Rogue One.
Jen Erso wasn't exactly like a Mary Sue or nothing like that. Episodes.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh man. No, nothing that Disney's done outside of Rogue One is no.
I kind of enjoyed Solo. I enjoyed bits of it.
Here's the thing.
I'll watch it when it comes out on Netflix or something like that.
Okay.
Right?
Nothing they do, like contemporarily or going into the future, can take away the old movies. If only thing you like is the old movies, then that's all you have to watch.
Yeah, exactly, Stags.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
Dying there, Stags.
I'm a huge Star Trek fan. I'm a Next Generation guy, but some people prefer Deep Space Nine. I mean, you like what you like. That's life, man. You just like what you like.
I like Deep Space Nine.
I do too, but I mean, I just something about Captain Picard. He's a bad motherfucker, dude.
Oh,
I mean, that's
a good point. The best explanation, the best short explanation for why theists and atheists just can't understand each other comes from Deep Space Nine. It's a quote from Major Kira, the best one that I've heard, which is faith. Those who don't have it can't understand it, and for those who do, no explanation is necessary.
Right.
Hello, Duke.
I think someone else has said that somewhere too before. That's the exact quote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I keep putting it in places when I'm talking about it.
If it fits, use it. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Look at it.
If it doesn't fit, lube it.
Are you on a train?
Yeah. He's vacuuming or something. What are you doing, Duke?
What are you talking about?
You riding a fucking vacuum around or something?
He's riding his motorcycle down the road.
I'm sitting in a recliner. I'm sitting in a recliner in my living room.
Every time you come on, there's always some weird background noise.
That's because I don't have like a microphone or any shit. I got like my headset and my phone. That's all I have to my name. Is it still doing it?
It's not real bad. I mean,
it's not so bad.
I can listen to it. It's not that big of a deal. So what are you up to today, Duke?
Just got home from work. Got to pull a new thermostat wire for a guy and get that finished up so we have our week finished off. But other than that, just chilling. Just going to play some more Dead Rising 2 and eat some hot dogs and shit.
Cool. Sounds like a good day.
What do you do?
Not too bad.
I should probably be off playing some games in a little while. I might play a bit of Jedi Academy.
Duke, what do you do for work? Are you a maintenance man or an electrician?
For the better part of about 13 or 14 years, I was an apartment maintenance guy. And then when I moved to Florida, I went to work as simply HVAC. And now I work doing installs and repairs of refrigeration and and heating and air. And then I also work in a hospital, admitting people to the ER.
Wow.
Sick. And like administration.
That's a lot.
Yeah, like just in admissions. So like if somebody's sick and they come to...
I know exactly what it is. I worked in an ER for 2 years as a nursing assistant. So I had a lot of interaction between the admissions girl and myself, because I always had to come out and get the patients and take them back,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then we got to go talk to the nurses whenever somebody comes up and says they have a chest pain, and they never actually have a chest pain. They're actually there for something else. But if they say chest pain, they get back quicker.
They're triaged first. Yeah. If it's life-threatening, you're triaged first. That's the order it goes in. If it's not life-threatening, they'll make you wait. But if they think it may be life-threatening, they'll get you in there as quick as they can.
Yeah,
that's not a good idea to lie to your doctors. Or whatever.
Well, no, chest pain is not life-threatening, but we have to assume that it is. You know what I'm saying?
Whatever they view as the most medically
could be. So he comes up and says, I got owie, and somebody else comes up and says,
Yeah, typically
with the state of the NHS as it is at the moment, with all the cutbacks, you almost have to have a heart attack before they'll actually see you.
Wow.
Yeah, we see everybody. I mean, if you show up to the ER, it doesn't matter why. I have to admit you, and we have to see you. So if somebody shows up to the ER and they say, I need to be seen today, and I say, okay, what's going on? They say, I'm not going to tell you. I just had to put him in his medical complaint, but we still have to see him.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't ask him, we can't do any, all we can do is write it off, you know what I mean, down the road. So if I go back and I'm like, what could you pay on this today? And they say, I ain't giving you squat. There's nothing we have no recourse of action but to put it on their credit and then ride it off down the road.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, people come, the funny thing about that is people that'll have full-blown Medicaid, right? They've got a doctor that's assigned to them.
Yeah.
They've got Medicaid. They could go to the doctor, and they don't.
Yeah, and they go to the ER for something minor that they can see their general practitioner for.
Yeah, and it's I've had people that have a problem, and so the guy literally will say to me, I've been to every ER in a 100-mile radius, and it's you have Obamacare, you have a low copay. If you come to the ER, the purpose of the ER is to save your life or limb. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily have to be life-threatening. If you cut 3 fingers off, go to the emergency room. You know what I mean? Exactly. But if you're here because you're having problems with your kidneys,
right?
Why go to your
life-threatening.
Yeah.
Go to your. It could, but don't wait. Go to your practitioner. Yeah. But go to see your regular doctor, and he'll send you to a specialist, and you can get it worked out. We're not going to do that in the ER.
Right.
We're going to
if sick and you take a turn for the worse and you're scared, go to the ER if it's after your doctor's hours. They'll just tell you to meet up with your regular physician the next day, you know, try to make an appointment with them, but they will treat you, you know. But I mean, don't go in for just any little, I mean, but if you actually, you know what I'm saying, if you actually have a problem and it's after hours, or that's what the emergency room is for. Like after hours, and you know, you actually have to have something taken care of.
It's hard too because
the room is for emergencies.
Right. It's hard too because you want to be. It's still a service thing. Like I'm still in the service industry, so I have to be polite and reasonable with everybody that comes in. But like we'll have somebody that's dying, and all hands on deck, and somebody will be raising utter friggin' hell with me because they've got a toothache or an ingrown toenail, or they're like, how long I got to wait to be seen? And it's like, until you're seen.
Took me about 2 months to get my ingrown toenail sorted out.
That's kind of funny. We were talking before you came on, Duke. We were talking about stuff like that, like about how people have this false sense of entitlement nowadays, and like they're very selfish and they want what they want right now. Right?
It's like we're not napping back here, buddy. We're not taking naps.
We got shit to do.
Yeah, we all got our hands full a little bit. And
well, the doctor might be napping, but the other people are definitely not.
Everybody else is sweating. The doctor's fine.
But the doctor's there for like 30 hours. He deserves a nap every now and then.
Yeah, we got two people back here who've got life-threatening long-term medical conditions, and one guy's cut his leg off. We're not dealing with your toenail right now, Mr.
Right.
Smith.
That's what triage is for. They establish who needs care the fastest.
Right, and that's not to say these people haven't been seen at all. If we're in a position where every single ER bed is full, and we've got a stack of people ready, all of them have been triaged. Yeah. All of them have been called to the triage room and checked, and it's been determined that for the most part there ain't a fucking thing wrong with them, so they got sent back out to the waiting room. You know, if you don't want to wait 3 hours, make an appointment with your doctor.
Right, that's exactly what triage is for, to determine how ill you are or what your problem is.
Well, it's funny too, because like I would agree with you guys that entitlement seems to be at like an all-time just high.
Yeah, that's what I talking about.
Well, there's a debate to be had there about terminology, because some people the word entitlement can mean something you are actually entitled to. So I try to stick to being self-entitled.
Yeah, or
terminology, just because I hope it makes it clear what I mean.
Yeah, I try to say
it probably doesn't.
Entitlement. Yeah,
a false sense of entitlement or being self-entitled. Yeah, I mean, I know that there's the whole usages and that. I like to try to be clear about what I'm talking about.
I'm entitled to my pay at the end of the week. After it works,
right, that's true. You're entitled to Medicare once you get past a certain age because you paid for it all your damn life. There's things like that, but I get your point. I guess there's a part of me that's not completely given up on that, but there's a part of me that just doesn't try as hard as I used to, because it seems like no matter how in depth I explain something, no matter how hard I try, somebody's going to come in and totally miss the context of everything I'm saying, and then continue to refuse to see the context of what I'm saying, even after I've explained it further. You know what I mean? So
will come in and try to pick apart which words you're using.
I'd love to hear what these guys coming in think about political correctness. We were talking about political correctness earlier, and we'd love to hear what your guys' take on it.
Political correctness that's tricky.
That's a loaded term.
No.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with being politically correct. But one of the things.
Yeah, you want to give me the definition? What was it again?
Hang on. Let me just get the thing back.
Yeah, pull up.
There's two ways that people look at it. There's
and we'll go by that definition of it. We're like saying, are there any pros or are there any pros to it?
Yeah, the discussion we had at the start was the pros and cons of the concept, and there's two ways of looking at it. The way of looking at it is that being in quotes, politically correct is just being nice to people and being tactful and trying not to upset people unnecessarily. And there's the way of looking at it that it's language and thought policing, that it's a negative thing. And I think both sides of that have merit.
I agree.
There's the two definitions, though, which are there's political correctness as being tactful and polite, and there's the Urban Dictionary definition, which is the way that we speak so that we don't offend whining pussies.
Yeah, well, if you went around calling people the N-word, wouldn't be politically correct, and nobody would be sitting here saying, "Oh, anybody that's complaining is just a whiny pussy." He's just not at all. No, people are like, shut the fuck up. There's an Overton window happening, and it's politically correctness has something to do with it. It's intertwined with that.
If somebody was going around using racially charged words directly at people who they know will be offended by that, just to offend them, I wouldn't say they were being politically. They do meet the definition of being politically incorrect, but I wouldn't say they were. I'd say they're being an asshole and they're being racist.
Hey, Duke, I didn't mute you, did I?
Huh?
I said I didn't mute you, did I?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, I pushed a fucking stupid button and it said muted.
Yeah. All right. So. There is merit to political correctness in the sense that knowing, like having proper language to have a conversation kind of takes some of the landmines out of a difficult conversation. You know what I'm saying? Like, because it kind of gives you a guiding line of how to have conversations with people who might have different identities or different views or different things from you, and have it be at least civil. You know what I'm saying? So you're not getting off on a tangent where you're having to backpedal and explain something where you really didn't mean anything, and they're having a meltdown because they think you're being racist or sexist or whatever it is. But there gets to be a point where it's just like the thing that I've often wondered about is who comes up with the terms. Like we have like terms for different groups of people, and it seems like every 7 to 10 years, those get cycled out, and new ones get cycled in, and the old ones are no longer good, and now you have to use this new term, or otherwise you're a bigot. And it's
they get more and more overly complex every time.
You could call that the pendulum swing.
Yeah, like that's the thing that gets me. I don't like the word police. Like when it's like when it's obvious that you're not being a bigoted cunt. Right. Maybe you're just having a joke, or maybe you're just maybe it was just a slip of the wrong thing, or whatever. And then you got a bunch of people got to jump in there. And here's the thing. All right, so here's where I think political correctness sucks. One of the places I think it sucks. People that get offended on behalf of other people.
Yes. Yes.
You mean mostly like
and the reason you get words like PC police and stuff like that is that's kind of a sarcastic term, because political correctness is something that happens entirely in the realm of politeness. It's about policy. It's not about legal things.
I'm going to put my snout in here and just say, not in England. In England and Scotland and the rest of the United Kingdom, you literally can be arrested and thrown in prison for saying the wrong thing.
Who was that guy that got busted?
That's not political correctness. That's legal correctness. There, that's a different issue. You know what I mean? But that's why we get terms like PC. So you don't have PC police. You have real police.
We have real police acting as the PC police.
Yeah, that's political correctness gone wild. And
that's there was someone in England who posted a rap lyric onto their, I think it was Instagram. One of their school friends, this was someone in secondary school, one of their school friends had been killed.
Wasn't it a girl?
They posted a rap lyric. They had posted a rap lyric which had several N-words in it. Because it was that friend's favorite rap song. And they were arrested and charged with hate speech.
Yeah, I heard about that.
I'm pretty sure that was a female. Am I
the very
correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
The very idea of political correctness is from this idea of operating within stuff within legal parameters. You know what I mean? We're not worried about people breaking the law. We're worried about not offending people. You know, having civil conversations with people in the realm of free speech. And then, so political correctness is a good thing at heart, like a lot of the things that Duke was saying. But then it gets out of control. You get things like PC police. You get things like people getting offended for other people. You get things like, why can't I say midget? Come on. Little
I got busted for that too.
Offensive. Little person is less offensive than midget.
Yeah, I got busted for that too. I was on Facebook, and a lady was like, I had a horrible nightmare last night, and I said, clowns or midgets? And she said it said she literally I asked her to put little people. And there was a part of me that said the same thing, Stags. I was just like, how is that less offensive? Oh, he's just a little person. Like,
I'm a little guy. I'm not a midget. I'm 5'8" and I weigh about 150 pounds. Okay, I'm not quite average size. You know what I mean?
Stags, I'm 5'4" and 125 pounds.
You're even small. Do you like it when people call you little guy? Do you like it when people come up and pat you on the head and say, "Hey, little buddy"?
I laugh at them. I laugh at them because I like to fuck with tall people because I can actually get through smaller things than they can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you might get picked up by Yandu.
But my point is, how is that? I don't understand why that. It just seems like every few years, the words that we use to describe something become bad words.
That's what I was saying, yeah.
Like secretary, for fuck's sake. You can't.
I can boil down my position on it to.
That's what I mean by things that are getting out of hand. Like, of course, you shouldn't go around calling people a fag, or you shouldn't call someone the N-word or stuff like that.
But be able to call you a fag?
Well, yeah, you can call me a fag, but I mean, if you're doing it,
let me see if I can boil down my opinion on it just into a quick little couple of sentences. My opinion is pretty much, if you mean when you say political correctness a synonym for tact, I'm all for you being tactful. If you mean enforcing societal standards way beyond their usefulness, and if you mean things like hate crime laws and hate speech laws, and if you mean stifling scientific advancement and creativity because it might offend someone, then I'm against it.
No, right. I see breaking PC etiquette much like breaking any other etiquette. It's just like, oh, okay, fuck that guy. It's you don't call the cops. You don't call the fucking cops because somebody used the wrong fork.
I think that's what he's getting at. I mean, you know, within reason. I mean, try to be tactful. At least be polite to people. There's no reason to be a dick. I mean, there's difference between constructive criticism and just criticizing someone to tear them down.
Right. You know it's a good point that, like, any of this stuff it could easily be handled on a sociological level these days. Like, if you went back 50 years and somebody was a terrible bigot, they might be able to be so entirely in private for the most part, because not everybody was walking around with a camera and a video. You know what I mean? Nowadays, if you get out and start acting like a terrible bigoted jackass, there's going to be consequences. Like, we don't necessarily need them to be legal. We can handle this just in society. You can handle this by just like showing who this person is and having everybody shun the shit out of them. And you know what I mean? I'm
not entirely for that either. Because in some aspects of it, there's the thing with, I disagree with this person, so I'm going to attach some label to them which would make them, in the eyes of many, a bigot, and then send this around until they get they get fired from their job, all their social circles collapse, and all this. Now, I'm against that.
That's kind of not the same thing I'm talking about, though.
Well, no, I agree. It's not exactly the same, but it's an extension of.
Yeah, and even if they're acting poorly, they can become a bit of a sacrifice.
Yeah, what I think you're talking about can lead to the thing I'm on about. And I think if it leads to that, it's a bad thing. Not just because it's mob rule and anyone, you know, it's stifling of opposing thought, but also because if it means someone is thrown out of their job, for example, it essentially comes down to, I disagree with this person's opinion. I think it would be great if the government paid their living expenses.
Perhaps, but I mean that boils down to the thing like that happened with Gilbert Gottfried back when the Japanese tsunami happened, and he was the Aflac duck back then, and he tweeted out some rather tasteless jokes, right? Which is what he does. He's a comedian, right? Exactly. That's his day job, right? And Aflac decided to let him go as a result, right? In that moment in time, nobody was wrong. Nobody did anything wrong. Gilbert Gottfried did what Gilbert Gottfried does, and Affleck decided they didn't want to be attached to that, so they let him go and replaced him with someone else. Now, a lot of the hyperbolic media coverage of it is ridiculous, but you can't. I don't know that anymore. You can expect the media to be anything but hyperbolic. It just seems like everything is automatically jumped on and blown way out of proportion. You know, I think Penn Jillette said it best when he said, if the people that were in Japan saw Gilbert Gottfried's tweets and it made their day worse than it already was, then their day wasn't that bad to begin with. So
honestly, that's one of the biggest problems that we're dealing with. People just being offended by everything.
Well, yeah, you've got the people that are professionally offended, and fuck those people.
Here's the thing though. They're allowed to be offended. You know what I mean? They're allowed to be offended just like people are allowed to make tasteless jokes. But we got to understand where the lines are, and they're all within legal parameters. We cannot start saying it's against the law for this or it's against the law for that or any of it. We got to just say, okay, you want to be polite in your way, I want to be polite in my way. We don't agree.
Are you wearing a Sublime shirt?
Yeah.
I have a Sublime tattoo.
You do? I have a Sublime album.
Dude, I was going through all my old shit and I found all these old DVDs, and there was one that wasn't labeled, just a black DVD case. Maybe it used to be a PlayStation game or something. I opened it up and it had 40 ounces of freedom in it. I was like, woohoo!
That's a great record. That's a great record.
Sorry, go ahead, Duke. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just agreeing. That is a great record, but you've got the point where it's like, yeah, people have the right to be offended. You're right about that, but there also should be, as much as they have the right to be offended, you've got characters, for instance, like Bering, who takes these people that they do have the right to be offended, and he makes a mockery of them because what they're doing is a mockery 9 times out of 10. It's attention-seeking behavior. They're just trying to garner attention for themselves in a very negative manner by tearing things that aren't necessarily that bad apart or blowing them way out of proportion. And then you have those people using means to try to shut him down. And all of that stuff has gotten to a point where it's ridiculous. But it's such a gray area to deal with, because if YouTube decides to shut down Bering's channel, they have every right to do so. They own the platform. It's their platform. We could say, I don't like it, but that's not a legal consequence. When you look at like American freedom of speech, for instance, our freedom of speech protects you solely from government prosecution. Yeah. And that's
from societal persecution.
Or from like any other consequence outside of being prosecuted by the government for exercising your free speech. And even in that respect, not all speech in America is protected speech. You cannot perjure, you cannot libel, you cannot slander, you cannot you can't incite violence.
Sure if this right, but with libel and slander, it's not a governmental consequence.
No, them are civil.
It would be a civil case, wouldn't it?
It would be a civil case, but it would still be handled legally by the court system.
Through the courts legally. I mean, it would be a civil case, as in your slander has caused me these damages. I want compensation.
Right.
Yeah, well, there's no legal recourse for that.
No.
If you look at
jail for it. that you can get, fined or whatever. Or
Like if you look at like if you look at like the show Bullshit by Penn and Teller, they call people assholes and all these kinds of names. And Penn just said one time, we don't call them quacks and we don't call them these other things because in those cases they could sue us. They would have legal grounds to sue us. You see what I'm saying? But if you just call somebody an asshole,
you insult them with no there's no real meaning, no meat to it. It doesn't matter. But if you say what you do is fraudulent and you're ripping people off,
if you make a false claim about them, that's what.
See, is
that slander or is that libel? Which one is
it? It depends on whether it's printed. If it's printed, it's libel. If it's spoken, it's slander, right? So, but there's still legal. It's still legal ramifications because they have to have a legal, viable reason to take you to court,
right?
And you know what I'm saying. Otherwise, they could be prosecuted for. Right. So it's still it doesn't. You can't be thrown in jail for it, but it's still a legal consequence. You know what I'm saying? So it's not protected.
And what are the parameters for that? Like, is it ruining someone's image in the eyes of society? I mean, like,
it could be anything.
If I went around and said, "Hey, my ex-girlfriend's a dirty whore that fucks everybody," which she's, well, one of them is, but the one this is just a hypothetical. But say if I went around and told everybody, "Hey, my girlfriend's a dirty whore that fucks everybody," and she's not. I mean, could she sue me for that? Is that slander?
It depends on how much damage you did. If she could come into court and say, "Look, nobody in my life will talk to me. All my friends
can't be hired.
Unfriended me. I can't be hired. I can't go any." Yeah. Then
right. So that's what I'm.
But
asking.
If it was just like, if you were sitting there with her old best friend and was like, "That old bitch was a bitch," that's not slander.
Right. A great example would be if somebody was selling a product of some kind that had some benefit, right? Some kind of health supplement, for instance, and you did a scathing review on it, making claims that it had side effects that it didn't have. And as a result, they lost a bunch of money because people stopped buying the product, right? You could be sued at that point for slander. That's one way. If you were to say, if I were to...
They wouldn't have a case if the thing actually didn't do its job.
They wouldn't have a case if the thing didn't do the job, if the claims aren't fraudulent, but if they are fraudulent, right? Or if you were to claim they had side effects they didn't have, or if you claimed any number of things. Another example would be if you were to claim somebody was behaving in a manner that they weren't, and they could prove that they weren't. Because it was a public enough thing that it was harmful to their personality, to their persona and to their lives, they can sue you for slander for that. And libel, I think, is even more constrictive. Like the media you have to be much more careful, I think, when you write things.
Yeah. As
well. So it's all gray area stuff because it does fall into that weird area of speech that it could be protected, it could not be protected, but technically, like the defamation of character type stuff, if it's entirely unfounded, can land you in some pretty hot water, right? So it's not protected. It's not protected speech.
The Kavanaugh case is a perfect example of what you're talking about.
The what?
The Kavanaugh case?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, you're right. But that was, that's a whole different bag of worms, really, though. It can turn into a civil case, but that was just a whole different, like a senatorial committee or whatever.
Right, I just want to put my snoz in a minute because I should make my escape shortly. But what I want to say is my objection is these things are legally enforced, things that really shouldn't be under UK law with hate speech and hate crime laws. And that's why I advocate that England and the United Kingdom should have a clear constitution like America does, where free speech is a protected thing. And that's what I advocate, and that's kind of why I discuss it in the way that I do, because in my country there isn't free speech.
Yeah, like Dankula getting arrested for.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was tasteless, but it was fucking hilarious, and it was just a joke. Come on,
Yeah.
I mean,
It was tasteless to
It was
some.
a
It was
fucking
funny to
joke.
others. It
Yeah, it
should
was
not have been a
hilarious.
legal matter.
but it wasn't anything that should have got him in any kind of trouble. I mean, you don't want to watch it, don't watch it. You know, I mean,
Right, and there's been multiple cases of that I've seen covered over in the UK where somebody tweeted something and then the police showed up at their house and arrested them.
Yeah, because
And
the mayor of London's a knobhead, and he's decided to that there needs to be a Twitter police squad.
I love that term, knobhead. I use that.
He's a bloody knobhead, isn't he?
I mean, I got it from watching Carl Flickerson on Idiot Abroad. That's one of the greatest things ever.
Hilarious, dude. He is hilarious.
He is absolutely just fall on the floor funny. Like that wasn't the Route 66 episode where he's driving down Route 66 and he has to get on top of the plane at the end. Oh. And they send him to the Leather Daddy conference.
Oh yeah, I do remember that. Do you remember the one where he went to Turkey and he had to wear the like traditional garb and wrestle someone? He had like oil up and fucking wrestle some like one of the other guys or something. You know what I'm talking about?
I think so.
Outstanding. But I better make my escape, people. It's getting a little late here, and I do have some things to do this evening.
All right, good night, my friend.
So very nice to chat with all of you again. We can do this again. Oh, I was going to say actually, Mr. Moldy Boy, we should do a few more of these underground apostate discussions about different subjects.
That'd be great. We could do it again next weekend if you'd like. We'll pick a different topic next weekend, though.
Well, we'll see how we do. Because we gotta pick a time that works out at the time, you know.
That's fine. That's fine. Just hit me up later in the week and let me know when you'll be free.
Yeah, have a little chat.
All right. Cool, man.
Thank you very much for the discussion,
brother.
I'll probably hang out in the chat for a little while if you want to continue.
You can show yourself if you'd like, by the way.
Wow, this is me. I'm sitting here in my smoking jacket with my badger face.
And his dildo. And the dildo. Yes. Don't forget the dildo.
It's a bottle of beer.
Well, if Bad Tempered Badger's got a channel, if you want to check him out, check him out.
It's actually quite a good channel.
He's also on Twitter as well.
I'll put a quick link to my channel in the chat.
All right.
How do I even do that?
I have something, guys. Did you guys see the thing I retweeted where
you're roboting?
Oh. Am I roboting?
No.
You're not roboting. Go ahead. No, you're not.
Okay. There was two things I retweeted today. I was curious to get your guys' opinion on. One was the guy, he's what the friendly imam or the something, but he tweeted out about this. There was I guess it's a gay couple, and one of them identifies as a dog and pretends he's a dog.
I saw that.
And so the guy was all like, this makes the. And I retweeted it was like, so, well, what you're saying essentially is that two people living their lives in accordance with their needs in a manner that doesn't have any outward consequences to anybody else is less reasonable than genital mutilation and suicide bombing? Like,
right. Like, if you want to dress up like a dog and fucking hump your partner's leg, fucking knock yourself out, man.
Yeah,
doesn't bother me, man.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't give a shit.
I think it's important to note that while he is, his title is, Imam of Peace, opposing all a lot of the negative aspects of Islam, he is still an Islamic Imam.
That's true.
He does that perspective and that worldview. So it is important to note that he does still have to take into account that side of his self.
Yeah, but he could shut up.
Oh, you could, yeah.
That doesn't mean, I mean, he has to take into account that side of himself, and then I, on the other hand, have to point out the exact absolute absurdity of it. So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is important
That's what I was
to
gonna
point out
say.
that is a bit of a silly statement.
just a bit. It's just a little bit out there, a little nutty.
Yeah, there's a lot of apples and oranges arguments on Twitter, dude.
Oh
Like
God.
people compare some of the stupidest shit. Like I'm like, what are they even talking about?
But the other one was the lady. I retweeted this thing. It's a lady who's a Christian lady. She's an anti-vaxxer, and her argument is, how can you say vaccines are good when they were never mentioned in the Bible?
Ah!
God doesn't talk about them. And I retweeted that one. It was like, that's a great, like, that's a great question. Fantastic question. There's nothing in the Bible about one of the most useful tools, one of the most life-saving and extending tools that we have. There's nothing about that. There's something about slavery, and there's something about fabrics.
Is
But
there
the
anything
germ
about
theory of
cheese? Is there
degrees?
anything about cheese in the Bible?
The
Keep
Bible
it
has
simple. Is there
has
anything
the
about
crazy
stocks?
rules they don't
Is there anything
follow, but
about
they
brand
fucking want
new
to.
stocks? Do they
What
say
about
anything?
Nikes?
Yeah. Well, Nike's.
Gel
They're
sole
gonna-
shoes, dude. Come on. You know what I
But
mean?
they make good shoes. Those kids make great shoes. But yeah, is there anything about brand new socks or a pimp ass hat in the Bible?
Or a computer?
Yeah.
Right.
You're on a fucking computer.
Toilet
There's
paper. Is there
nothing
anything about
about-
Charmin Ultra Soft in there?
That's the best one too, isn't it?
I get the Ultra Strong. I don't like
I'm
the
gonna
Ultra
ask
Soft.
you,
It's a little
everyone.
bit too fluffy. It fluffs off.
Thank
too
you
much.
very much for the conversation. Have fun. I shall speak to you again soon.
All right,
Check out-
take it easy, brother. Take it easy.
But yeah, I found this lady's she has a whole YouTube channel of such nonsense.
What's it say in the Bible about taking a hot shower?
Yeah, they used to think that water was for them in ancient times, so I don't really want to go by what they think.
Pumpkin spice.
Yeah, they used to like literally call lice God's pearls, or the pearls of God.
Lice?
Yeah, but they were like all hip on them and shit.
They're
They-
like,
they
hell
liked
yeah.
lice. I got lice, baby.
Get some. Get some.
Check out,
Let me get some of
check out all
that.
these pearls I got.
Let me get some of that. Let me get some of them pearls. I ain't got no pearls.
These pagan Norsemen bathing weekly. What's wrong with them? Ha ha.
These crazy Africans washing their asses.
Right.
That was a deep joke there.
But yeah, I was just curious. If you guys get a chance, if you see what I tweeted it out, just have a look because there's like a whole channel this woman has where she goes on about nonsense like this. And I'm gonna later on this evening, I'm gonna dig into it. Maybe tomorrow, see if I can find some stuff that's worth taking apart. It's beautiful.
Oh, I want to tell you guys about this website I found. It's called hold on a second. It'll come to me. Actually, I'm pulling it up right now. It's called Debunking Denialism. It's the rest of it being fighting pseudoscience with reason and evidence, and it's got a bunch of cool articles about HMOs and anti-vaxxers and just all kinds of different things: medicine, evolution, psychiatry, climate, just general skepticism. And then there's a part that has science denialist tactics. You guys should check it out. It's a really, really cool website.
Sounds like it. Can you DM me a link to it?
Yeah, sure can.
Oh, and by the way, that chick, Blind Press, she has a hatred for anti-vaxxers because she didn't get the vaccine for, I think it was mumps or measles, one of the two. And
Oh shit, that caused her blindness? Oh, that's horrible, man.
Yeah,
no,
that's the funny thing to me. Like, you want to get into PC culture and word police, like, those are people that should actually be maybe shut up a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like, there should actually be some level. I don't know. There's a part of me that thinks there should be some level of recourse of action for people that tell people don't or sell woo.
Absolutely, that's dangerous, dude. Like, when actually there's an article I wanted to look at on here, and it had something to do with that. It was had something to do with a family. They denied their child medical treatment because of like faith healing, and the child died or something.
Yeah,
they got life in prison, didn't they?
I don't remember. If I could find, I'll look for the article. So you guys
depends on where they were. They were like here or in Idaho, then they were fine, I'm sure.
No, I think there's a major problem with anti-vaxxers. Like, yeah, I don't like flat earthers. I think they're dumb. I don't like Christian channels. I think.
Oh, here it is. This really okay. Quacks who let their son die have conviction overturned due to it on a technicality. An Alberta couple guilty in son's death gets new trial. In 2012, David and Colette Stefan let their son Ezekiel die by refusing to take him to a hospital after he suffered for 2 weeks with meningitis. When they finally did, he was more or less brain dead. They were convicted in 2016, and their appeal was dismissed in late 2017. They decided to appeal to the Supreme Court of Canada, mostly on various legal technicalities, and now their convictions have been overturned. They've been granted a new trial.
They need to go to prison. That's their cross to bear. They need to suffer like Jesus did.
Right.
And accept their...
But Straight Sith, what were you saying about anti-vaxxers, the difference between anti-vaxxers and flat earthers?
Oh, have you noticed that they're kind of they correlate with each other? And vegans too. They're kind of all part of the same group of insanity.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'd lump vegans in with them. There's some vegans that go in there, but there's some vegans on our side too.
Well, these people, I don't know if they were...
Stags, you are right. You are absolutely right. There are some vegans that are actually just normal people that like the diet and they don't care.
And they're not very loud, so you don't notice them as much as you notice the loud, stupid ones.
Like Vegan Gains.
Yeah, he's in that case.
Did you guys watch Amy K's stream with him?
I've seen him on with Bearing once, and maybe I think he was on with Jeff Holiday or someone like that. I don't remember, but
he did a stream with Amy K recently, and I thought she handled him beautifully because he tried to bully her the whole time, and she just didn't stand for it. Like every time he started like doing his thing where he's repeating the same question to the point where he's screaming it at her the same question over and over again, she just sat right there and kept talking. Just talked over him through the whole thing. I tweeted it out. I was like, well done. I thought it was honestly great.
I think most of us do not care what your diet is.
No, I could care less about anything you do if it doesn't affect anybody else. It's when your ideas start affecting everybody else, or when you want to encroach on my life by trying to force your ideals on me. That's the only time I get mad.
I'm curious about something though. Like, if you've got, I'm curious about something. If you've got vegans who are the anti-vaxxers, are they anti-vaxxers because of pseudoscience, or are they anti-vaxxers due to ethical reasons because the vaccines are developed by testing them on animals?
I'm sure there are some people like that.
That is a good question.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never heard that.
I'm sure
that probably turn a bunch of people off vaccines if we start spreading that idea around.
Let's don't. I'm just asking.
I mean, I'm sure there are some people that look at it that way, though. I mean, there's all kinds of.
Well, I know that there's animal rights activists, vegans who are. Well, they're primarily animal rights activists, and then veganism is like a subset of that. And I don't want to come across like I'm bashing veganism. I absolutely, personally, I think it's hard to argue or nearly impossible, argue that it's not a more ethical lifestyle choice than being a carnivore. That said, I'm still
Yes.
going to eat meat, but which I know is kind of a
Duke,
selfish thing. But
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
oh, you're good. Go ahead, man.
I don't think that eating meat is morally wrong. I don't think that eating vegetables is morally wrong.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go yell at a fucking vegan because they eat only
Right.
veggies. That's
Right. Well,
insane to me.
yeah. I think you're kind of boiling it down to just basic aspects of it. I mean, there's a lot more to it. Like factory farms are a thing. Like
Yeah, they're
the
horrible,
way,
but
the
that's not
way
gonna stop me
animals
from
get
eating
treated.
meat.
Right. And like I'm a vegetarian. I'm not a vegan, but I'm a vegetarian for ethical reasons. And I don't think that. Well, I don't go around telling other people what to do either.
I've known you for 2
Okay,
years, and I
okay.
never.
So I grew up on a farm. Literally, I grew up on a farm. We treated all of the animals very well.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
There
I
was
live
no
where
point
there's
where
farms. All the
any
cows
of the
around here are
animals
happy
were
as fuck.
treated badly. You know what I mean? And when it was time to slaughter, we would make it as least painful as possible. Big farms are bad, and I definitely agree with you on that.
Yeah, and that's
done
it.
with
That's the ethical pinpoint right there.
Right, but you don't go around trying to shove your ideas down other people's fucking throats either.
I got a leather jacket.
All right, see?
I wear leather shoes.
Yeah, there's I mean, you can make the argument that it's a more. I mean, you can easily make the argument that it's a more ethical lifestyle than eating animals, especially given the fact that it's not even really necessary to have a meat-based diet anymore. But I don't like the thing that strikes me odd about it is like it seems like the desire to extend almost on par rights to animals as we extend to humans, and there's a hierarchy of rights when it comes to sentient life, and you know what I mean. And the majority of all of the animals we eat sit on a lower hierarchy than we do, in my opinion. Like I wouldn't value any animal life over a human life.
No.
So that's where it gets into it with me, where like when you do hear the animal rights activists squalling about the testing of vaccines and drugs on animals, like drug trials on animals, you're never going to win that argument with me. I'm never going to see it. I will never value mice as much as I value humans. You know, I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to side with my species before I side with anything else.
Yeah, agreed.
I love
What's
animals,
strange is that we value snakes more than we value mice, and that's weird because the mouse almost certainly has greater capacity for fear and pain and even happiness and love and joy than the snake does, and it's much more closely related to us.
Yeah, that's why experimenting on them works so well compared to us, because their bodies do react so similarly, you know.
But we'll drop it into the tank of a cold-blooded eating machine.
I mean, I love animals, dude. I like animals better than I do people. I mean, I could never go and hunt. I mean, I just don't have it in me. I can eat meat. That doesn't bother me. But I could myself, I just don't have the heart to kill something. I mean, it's just not in me. But I mean, if animals need to be experimented on to keep us alive, then so be it. You know, as long as they're treated humanely, you know, then.
Yeah, I'm a strange bird. I don't connect emotionally to animals very well, and it's not like I don't want to, because I realize how weird that is. Like, because most people just automatically can get emotionally invested.
Call Shane Dawson, everybody.
I can't do it.
We got a sociopath on our hands.
I mean, I have a heightened level of empathy with other humans. Like an enormous amount of empathy for other humans, but I just have never been able to really. I think it's the way I was raised, because I was raised that animals, like, we didn't have pets; they had to serve a purpose. You know what I mean? Like, if you got a cat, it was to be a mouser. It was to keep rodents down. If you had a dog, it was as a form of, to let you know if there was somebody coming in the house or something like that. Like, we didn't have pets just to have pets. And my parents didn't really see animals in the same light as a lot of other people do. So I never really had those experiences. So like, I love our dog, Duke. He's a great dude. We get along just fine. I gave him goodies and I talk sweet to him, but I'm not like emotionally invested in him in the same way that my sister is. Like, my sister would be just crushed if something happened to him. I would be sad, but it wouldn't be the end of the world for me. I'm just a weird guy.
Right. Well, I'm desensitized to death from working in the medical field for 20 years. Like, if I see an old person die, like, it's sad they died, but I realized they lived a full life and they were suffering and they're better off dead, And like, a lot of times, like, it used to piss me off because family members like think they want to keep their loved one alive because but in reality they're being selfish. They don't want to let go, and I get it. It's hard to let go of a family member, but if that family member is miserable and doesn't want to live, and they're fucking it hurts to open their eyes, that's no way to live, dude. That's no way to live.
Not to say they're useless to us, but they're useless to themselves. You know what I mean? I don't want to be useless.
They feel absolutely like a burden upon everything,
Yeah, well, my mother had an aneurysm in late 2016 and October of 2016. And when we had her put in, by the time we got to Gainesville and the neurologist got to look at her, they were asking us what to do. And like, I just said, look, she's gone. If you can keep her here, just on a breath, it's just on the breathing machine. If you can keep her here until the rest of my family arrives so they can have a chance to say goodbye, do it. But don't take any extreme measures. If she starts to go, just let her go.
For the last month, 2 months.
You're like, sounds like you're talking through a pillow.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, but I literally lost my mom about 2 weeks ago. That was.
Oh wow, I'm sorry.
She wasn't insane anymore.
Now I think we can hear you better. Try again.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh no. Yeah, my mom died about 2 weeks ago. It was shitty. But you know what? I wasn't sad about it. I already knew it was gonna happen.
Right. Like when my mom died, I was working that night at the hospital, and they called a code blue, and I got downstairs, and they wouldn't let me go in and then I seen my dad, and I realized, But my mom had been on dialysis for like 3.5 years, and she just she had to have a straight cath every time to go to the bathroom. Her kidneys didn't work at all, like zero, nothing, and she was miserable. Yeah, it was sad, but. I realized, she's way better off. She wasn't happy at all.
Yeah,
at all.
Exactly. And if they're scared and just everything is fucked up, no. There's other than our selfishness, there's no reason to keep your mom there. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I've got a pretty much, like, the way I look at it, if I were to somehow get diagnosed with, let's say, some form of cancer, and they gave me less than, let's say, 15% chance, they say, you've got about a 5% chance. I'm just going to stay as comfortable as I can for as long as I can and then just check out. I'm not, you know what I mean?
I don't know, man. Like, if I knew I was going to die, if I had like stage 4 cancer and I knew I had a month to live, I might try to medicate myself and stay comfortable for a while. But I was a heroin addict for a long time, so I know that's not painful at all. So I would just fucking shoot up a bunch of opiates and say goodbye.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
It's the most comfortable way to die. I've done it a couple times, and it wasn't uncomfortable at all. So I know it wouldn't hurt.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I wouldn't be the guy that was that was doing 2 years of hardcore chemo for no reason.
Yeah,
like, just extend miserable. Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good.
I don't want to. I worked in medical care for too long. I don't want to be that guy, dude. I've seen how shitty it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, if my kids are grown and I'm like old, if I'm like over 60, I'm not gonna fucking worry about it. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
But I think if I was under
again,
60, I'd try to live. Try to keep
Well,
I would try to die with as much dignity as possible. You know, that's the thing Christians don't get. They think atheists are like that. Like, oh well, life means nothing because you're an atheist. No, life means a shit ton to me because I'm an atheist. This is the only life I get. You know, I want it to mean something.
Hey, baby.
You know,
what the batteries are?
So
Batteries.
I don't know.
We had batteries. They were.
I think that's a weird argument when atheists or when
We had
Christians
batteries.
use that argument against us.
Can you look and see if you can find them for me, love?
What? For the longest time, they were at your desk.
They're not there anymore. Yeah, no, that whole you can't have meaning unless you have meaning the way we have meaning argument sucks.
Yeah, it's fucking
Like your meaning only counts if it's Jesus approved. Otherwise, it's not really meaning; it's something else. Or you just all you want to do is to be debaucherous and shit. And it's like
right.
That's true.
No, to a degree, but they are. It's like you don't like I like the thing I pride myself most on is being a father. You know, when I've been a lover, it's being a lover. You know what I mean? Like it's not. It's not like I just want to friggin' party all the time and do. Like I get way more meaning out of things than that. But it's like I've said before. Like when you're dealing with the theists, they have to find a way to box us into their narrative.
Right.
Because the minute they don't box us into their narrative, it falls apart. Like the idea of a happy atheist is fucking foreign as fuck to them because how could we possibly be happy when we don't have Jesus? Right. We must be lying to ourselves. We must be some shit like that. Because if we're happy without Jesus, something's wrong with what they think. And it's just they have to find a way to square that circle.
Right. That's what I was going to say. Can you imagine living your whole... I mean, I would imagine that since Christians are so busy trying to suppress their base emotions, like, say, like, you know, sexual attraction and, you know, they don't, just basic things that
battery pack?
we don't worry about.
Battery pack
and then, like, you know, I think that makes their life harder because then they feel guilty about feeling totally natural things. You know, like just masturbating, for Christ's sake. You know, they fucking think it's a huge fucking sin. I mean, can you imagine the shame and guilt they feel because they truly believe they're doing something wrong?
Well,
what a shitty way to live, man. I mean, why would you always want to feel guilty about something?
Weren't you guys talking earlier about the whole... wasn't Badger saying something about the whole God set the rules that he put in place in order to coincide with society? Like he did it in ways that it would work with society where it was? Like when he wrote his laws?
Yeah. We were talking about that.
Something about that, yeah.
We mentioned it.
That came up in another discussion I had, and I think the thing that struck me as odd about that entire argument is, like, if that's true, if that's their argument and that's true, doesn't that kind of make God beholden to human society?
I don't know. You could argue that he's just working with us.
Well, so if the argument is that slavery was a convention of the time, and so God regulated slavery instead of just saying don't own slaves, but his intention was for us to eventually not own slaves. Why not just say don't own slaves? Like, why work inside of what is a traditional norm?
Yeah.
That's what I was getting at too with my argument of like, if Adam was created complete and whole and as smart as I am or smarter, and he lived longer, why couldn't he understand the same things that I can understand about basic human morality?
Well, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that from a cognitive level there's probably not a whole lot different. I mean, there were some pretty smart motherfuckers walking around the planet Earth back then. And another question I would have...
In their narrative, Adam was was a man. You know what I mean? He wasn't a caveman. He was a man. He was just like us.
Right. Well, but in their narrative, also the laws weren't handed down until well after Adam was gone and the fall of man. You know what I mean? Like they were handed down to Moses, but still, all the same. Like, all right. So let's say slavery is a social.
He didn't meet him in the middle about pork or anything else. You know what I mean? He didn't say, "Look, here's if you're gonna kill people, here." Well, I guess he kind of did, but he didn't frame it that way. He told them to kill people when he thought it was okay. But other than that, the commandment is thou shalt not commit murder. Thou shalt not have any more gods before me. Well, if he didn't acquiesce to society about their golden idols. He didn't acquiesce to society about their fornications.
Right. Why not regulate homosexuality? Right. So if the argument is that slavery was a convention at the time, well, homosexuality has been a convention for as long as we've been a fucking species. And not just our species, countless other ones. It's just a naturally occurring thing. So why not put the same regulations you'd put on a marriage on a homosexual relationship and regulate that instead of saying stone them to death? But go ahead and own the slaves. I'll be the cool parent on the slaves. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like homosexuality is cocaine, but owning slaves is smoking a little weed here and there. Like, I'd rather you do it in the house so you can follow the rules and be responsible. Like, that's got to be one of the dumbest arguments.
You know why? And you know why them rules are different? Because everybody wanted to own a slave, but only a small percentage of people were homosexuals. Just like now, I'm sure. I bet you
there was more homosexuals than there were ever slaves, though. What, like 10% of people are gay or something like that?
I think it's less than that. Is it 10%?
Even if it's 1%, I don't think that many people were slaves ever.
No, but more people wanted slaves than they wanted people to be gay. So that's why they punished gay people, because they were the ones.
Oh, well, now you're using logic and reason and acting like humans wrote it.
Yeah, it's almost as if we came up with it.
Yeah.
It's almost as if a bunch of fucking Iron Age apes were like, let's write some rules. What do we want to outlaw? What do we not want to outlaw? Maybe we shouldn't.
Like a couple dudes out of tons of people, and those dudes who had the money and knew how to write thought homos were icky.
Yeah. Like, what do we want? Like, maybe we should get rid of this slavery thing. Hey, fuck you. I don't want to pay these people. All right. Slavery stays in.
One guy be like, my old lady cheated on me. Let's make it a rule that if women cheat, we can throw rocks at them until they're dead. They're dead.
Yeah. Throw rocks at them until they're dead.
Yeah, my neighbor's daughter is kind of cute. I kind of want to throw it on her a little bit, but I don't want to get stoned to death. What can we do about that? Well, you got 40 shekels of silver.
How many goats you got?
Right. We'll make it so if you rape a virgin, it's only cost 50 shekels. But
let's just call that a wedding.
Murder.
Let's just call that a wedding.
It's like the
we'll just call that marriage.
Yeah.
Right. Isn't that ridiculous? Oh my God.
Well, it's the most hilarious thing. Like, if you read the ancient law,
when you think about it that logically, you're like, holy shit, man! Like, how fucking stupid were these people? You can tell it was written for. I mean, just look at the laws and who do they benefit the most? That's exactly what they did. Who they benefit the most? That's what the laws are for.
Yeah, it's what it's like. I don't remember who I was talking about this with. I was talking about this with somebody, but it's like when I hear modern people when they pray for things, they're like, "Well, I needed guidance. I had this tricky issue that I had to deal with, and I didn't know what to do, and I had a couple options. So I prayed to God to give me guidance on what I should do, and He gave me peace with this decision, right?" And my answer to that is always, so you asked yourself for permission, right, and then you gave yourself permission.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. I think we were talking about.
Go ahead. Saying before I went to get coffee that the laws are written to benefit the writers. Yeah, they were the old law was written by the priests, And if you read Exodus and Leviticus with that in mind, you go, oh, the priests get the meat. Like when you take the sacrifice to the temple, you give it to the priests. You give it to the priests, and they take it. That's how that works.
Yeah, more or less. And then, yeah, well, it's so funny because like the thing that kills me, one of the things that kills me the most is if you look at like as a modern ape, I read the Levitical law, I read the old law. And the whole time I'm reading it, I'm like, this has got to be the most ridiculous, petty bullshit I've ever fucking read. And if you sit in a church where they're talking about Leviticus, watching those motherfuckers jump through hoops to try and square it off, I watched this guy go on about how the whole of it was just a symbolism that God gave to the people to remind them to stay separate. Don't mix two fabrics because you're not supposed to mix with your neighbors. Don't do this because you're not supposed to mix with your neighbors. And,
so it's an allegory for racism.
Yeah. And so then he comes back with, but the homosexual thing is serious. God was serious about that one.
Of course. The one... You gotta pick it out of the page of stuff he wasn't serious about. In between lobsters and fabrics, or whatever, boiling a mother's milk, boiling a goat in its mother's milk.
Do not see the calf in its mother's milk. You know that's the reason why those motherfuckers can't eat cheeseburgers.
That's gotta have some kind of allegorical meaning behind it, because that makes no fucking sense at all. Who cares if you fucking boil a fucking kid in goat milk
from the same milk?
Right.
Or the same from the mother's cat. That's so stupid.
And have you ever noticed the rules and the laws only benefit the people from that tribe? Everybody else, them laws don't benefit that. They don't. As a matter of fact, them laws have nothing to do with anybody outside the tribe. Like,
yeah. And you know what we don't have? You know what we don't have is a lot of other primitive tribes, nomadic tribes. Laws written down. We don't get to see all of the other ones that didn't come up with a system of writing to write it all down.
And a lot of their laws,
and they're probably just as silly.
Well, a lot of their laws are stolen from older civilizations, like the Assyrians and the Babylonians and shit like that.
Yeah.
Xenophobia.
There's evolutionary advantage to xenophobia, especially back then. Not
Absolutely.
Now. There isn't with the medicine we have, but yeah, there's pathogens. I mean, right away, and the part of our brain that activates when we see a different colored person, before you ever get to make any decisions about whether you're a racist or not, your brain activates a fear and a disgust thing first in your amygdala, and then you go, I'm not a racist. This is just a human. I'm going to shake his hand and invite him in for tea. But the first thing is an other. You see an other there.
Yeah.
They've done tons of studies where they show people pictures of different colored people and measure their brainwaves, and it's not a good thing. It's not happy. These aren't awesome scientific findings, but it's a fact that.
Actually, did you guys read The Righteous Mind by Jonathan Haidt? Oh, dude, I can't recommend that book highly enough. It's a really freakishly good book. But he actually lists a website there where you can go to this website and take a series of tests and it will reveal your hidden biases to one degree or another. And it includes different races and different religions and different people that are handicapped status, all that stuff. And it's a kind of scientific method to it where it basically times how long it takes you to make a decision and what your decisions are. And it can show you to what level you have an innate natural bias towards your whatever you are. Right. But it's not just, it wouldn't just be it would be across everybody. Anybody that takes it's going to have some kind of bias towards one thing or another. It's weird, but it's worth doing. I did it and it was pretty cool. It was cool in a fascinating kind of way. It wasn't cool in a wow, I'm glad I'm a freaking inner biased bigot, but but I mean, it was fascinating to see that part of myself, because I would have said I don't have any biases. You know, that would have been.
That reaction Staggerson was talking about, I think, is probably just an old tribal instinct. Just keep yourself alive, you know.
It's an animal. It's an evolutionary.
I don't. You know, while we're talking, have you guys ever read Guns, Germs, Steel by Jared Diamond? Any of you?
No.
Oh, it's a fucking excellent book, dude. You guys should check it out. It's about like why the West was the prevalent winner of what society is like today. It's pretty interesting.
Because we're riddled with disease. White people are riddled with disease.
Yeah, that's part of it. Germs. That's the germs part.
Well, imagine this: you're a tribe, right? You know your family, and basically the rest of the tribe is your extended family, and 200 people or less, and they're the same people you've known all your life. You know the babies' names. You were there when they were born. You know the old people's names. You'll be there when they die. And then a stranger comes. You meet a stranger, and he looks different, and he speaks a different language, but he's scared, and he's cold, and he's alone, and he's hungry. So you bring him to your village and you feed him and you let him sleep in your bed or in your hut or whatever. And you take care of him for a week, and then you send him on his way, and then everybody in your village gets sick and half of everybody dies. And well, that was obviously a curse brought by the stranger, right?
Right. Exactly.
Strangers are bad.
I mean, look at the they're not for sure, but they say the estimates are like something like 90% of natives died when they came in contact with the old world, when they first came in contact with the Native Americans. That fucking like 90% of the entire population died off, man.
Wow.
Native Americans. That's crazy to think that fucking at one time they were so big, you know. I mean, at the time, like Cortez or whatever invaded fucking Tetzcoatlan or whatever it was called, fucking there was like 2 million people. It was like bigger than any European city they'd ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
So that's crazy to think that many people died just because of disease. That's insane.
When they found evidence of giant cities that were here in North America,
like the mountains.
They were gone. They were like gone by the time the Europeans got here.
Yeah, like they were like 2,000 years old. Like they're from like BC and shit. The mounds like Cahokia in southern Illinois. Them mound, that was from like a race of people that was from like fucking I mean, they were ancient when the fucking first pilgrims came over. Already, they've been dead for fucking 2,000 years or some shit.
Well, yeah, was it something like 99% of all animal species that's ever lived are extinct? Mm-hmm. You know, there's no telling how many different civilizations have flourished and died on the planet, and nobody will ever know who the fuck they were. You know what I mean? It's just. It's mind-boggling, but it's fascinating too.
And they keep finding more and more evidence of look at Globi Techie or whatever it's called. You know what I'm talking about?
Gobekli Tepe.
Okay, that's it. I can never pronounce it, but I mean, like that's like 6,000 years older than anything they'd ever found or some shit. It's like what, 12,000 years old or something.
Now come on, man.
It was buried 12,000 years ago.
Dude, that's twice as old as the Earth is.
Wild.
I know, right? Maybe dinosaurs built it.
Maybe so, but oh man, I'd love to find this series because I'd love to do a series of videos on it. If I ever do videos, I don't know if I ever will, but if I ever did, the Bible Adventure Crew, or whatever it is, the one with the it's got the quirky guy and the kids, and they go on adventures, and he's like explains old Earth creation, like the young Earth creationism. And they try to say that
John Morris Pendleton now. You guys know who I'm talking about? You guys know John Morris Pendleton?
I've heard the name.
Made a bunch of videos. the guy
Yes.
a bunch of videos on.
The chemist.
The mechanic, chemist, fucking
Applied
whatever
sciences. Applied
Yeah.
sciences.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
don't
what
know.
I pictured when you said that, though.
I think I can't remember what it's called, Bible Adventure or something. I think it's connected to Answers in Genesis on some level or another. But like they tried to make the argument, like they were like, just because T-Rex had sharp teeth doesn't mean he wasn't a vegetarian. It just means he had sharp teeth. Like when we through it, we use a machete. It's sharp.
Well, and he was shaped like that so he could chase down the fruit.
Yeah.
Right. You know how trees move, man. This shit's fast.
Yeah. Well, he would run past them and chomp off a branch with his big mouth and just eat the whole branch. That's
You
why
know, they're right now,
he could
fast
see through the
food.
wood.
Do you think creationists show their kids episodes of the Flintstones and call it educational? It's like
T-Rex-
pre-fun educational.
T-Rex had binocular vision and was probably the fastest thing around.
Yeah.
You know, what the fuck?
Right on, guys. I have to go. Real life is calling. I will see you later. Have a good evening.
Oh,
All right,
shit.
see
It's
you.
almost 4. I should probably be wrapping up, too. I didn't realize it was this late. Well, everybody, thanks. I want to thank everybody for coming. Thank you guys that are still here for coming and watching. You all have a good day. Take it easy.